It is Monday, May 11th, and this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board. The Planning Board is now in session. The first item on the agenda is the discussion item, 4042 Central Street status update. I will give the update. So we received another email on Wednesday and then again today claiming that the conditions on the major site plan approval were not permissible under Dover. Just because an untrue statement is repeated a million times does not make it true. The major site plan was approved in July of 2023 after 6 hearings, 3 of which were continued without testimony. Town council attended, the proponent's attorney attended to assure that the site plan was permitted within the confines of the Dover Amendment. The conditions were discussed and agreed upon. The non-administrative conditions of the major site plan all related to parking, and parking is one of the categories the town can regulate under Dover. According to the Attorney General's website, courts consistently uphold parking regulations when they relate to safety, traffic flow, or neighborhood impact, which everything in the site plan was parking and it related to those things, less so neighborhood impact. They're compatible to what non-Dover uses must follow. It was all right in the bylaw, nothing outside of the bylaw. And they do not make the educational project infeasible. Having a parking lot does not make that feasible. So all of the above are true in this case. Town council has consistently stated that the site was permitted within the confines of the Dover Amendment. So the site plan was approved in July of 2023. By October of 2023, the Southborough Historical Society began their campaign contending that the major site plan approval was legal under Dover, that the planning board had no jurisdiction under Dover, and that they had no intention of complying with the major site plan. It was after these claims were made that town council opined again that, first of all, the major site plan was approved under the confines of Dover, and second, an appeal is the proponent's only recourse if they felt the major site plan was not within the Dover confines. They did not appeal, so therefore the major site plan governs and the proponents are required to comply. The first time the Southborough Historical Society came before the planning board to request a temporary certificate of occupancy was in January of this year. At that time, the planning board agreed to sign off on a temporary certificate of occupancy without any bonding, which time I've been on the planning board, we've never done that before. But we did require that the temporary certificate of occupancy be subject to the following conditions. Any parking lot lighting shall be reviewed and discussed with the planning board vice chair. That was not complied with. There are temporary lights up there. We have no idea if they light the parking lot, if it's safe, how they were installed, if they're safe electrically, if someone can get electrocuted on the site. Complete application for the modification of the site plan and a lighting plan shall be submitted by April 8th. That was not complied with, although we were continually told it would happen. We received an email this afternoon at 4:11, although it's not a complete submission. So that condition was not complied with. Engineer consultant review fees shall be provided. We were assured that a check would be delivered on April 28th. It has not. Accessible parking sign installed. There was a sign that was stapled to the wall, but then they moved the parking, so it's no longer in front of the parking. They only put in 1 parking space, although one being van accessible is required. And then the 30-day updates, which they did. And many commitments were made at those 30-day updates, none of which have ever have been followed through. So that's where we are. We issued a temporary certificate of occupancy. It was supposed to expire in 5/1. He asked that it be extended till today to see if anything was updated. None of the conditions of that temporary certificate of occupancy have been met. Ms. Houlihan.
Just to add, I received a note from John, who was originally appointed to be the mediator. I was for the planning board, he was for historic, and he let me know that he was no longer in that role, and that Michael was taking over in those communications. My only comment is, we've tried to do this the best way that's legally allowed by our guidance and what we're supposed to do in upholding our rules, regulations, and bylaws. And so I feel like we've done and extended many olive branches, and there's been no opportunity that's been reciprocated. So at this point, I would actually lean towards withdrawing the temporary occupancy.
Mr. Murray.
Well, I find this to be a really difficult situation. I would hope that someone would show up tonight so that we could have a discussion. Looking forward to looking at the modification of the site plan. But I do think that we're in a very difficult position right now.
It's frustrating.
Okay, so I have a few things. So I agree with what Marnie and Debbie has said. It's unfortunate. I thought we were making great progress when Mr. Della Pascoli was here. It felt good leaving those meetings. Just some notes that I have gone back through, and I've rewatched meetings and everything. One of the comments made in the new letter was that we waived our bonding authority. We never waived our bonding authority. We said for this permit, the temporary CO, we would, based on the conditions, if the conditions were met, we would. So I just wanted to add that. My biggest concern is that we've been continuously made promises that have not come to fruition. I think this board has worked in very good faith. We've extended the permit at our last meeting for the 10 days till we could come together again. There were conditions on that as well. There were conditions with getting the peer review check, which didn't come through. Since I've sat on the board, and granted it's only been 3 years, we've never issued a temporary CO without a bond for anyone. And we've taken a lot of heat for that, but we've kept very strict on the policy for that. And I think that shows that we've tried very hard to work with the society. Town council also sat in on the discussions back in 2025. And also, I believe when the site, no, I came on after the site, so I'll take that back. But in 2025, when we reviewed this with council, council was on board. We went over line by line, or I should say planning board went over line by line, the decision before the decision was issued. I was new on the board then. And then we no objections, other than to native plants. And if they knew at the time that they were going to object and that they couldn't appeal, then I don't think it's our fault. What did the society think was going to happen when they didn't appeal and they got to the point where they wanted to open? I think a 3-month extension is a practice the board has exercised in the past. I think, again, with the right conditions, that's great. And I think, let's see. I guess one of the biggest things for me is the applicant has known since January that he's aware of the requirements, and basically to date, not much has been done. Let's see. Just a couple things. Town council had opined regarding the letter that was done. This was from the January 12th meeting. Town council was there. He expressed his view that lighting of the lot is an issue the board could regulate as part of parking, that if it was not a safety issue, or if lighting in question does not eliminate the parking lot, then the board has limited authority. We talked about the safety consequences of that. We talked about the conditions and the hours, dusk to dawn, and that was based on having no lighting and a safety issue as well. So, just a couple other quick things. Town council said in December, to the, society's lawyer that there's selective, and I quote, "There's selective recitation of the applicable provisions of the Dover Amendment mask the fact that a presiding permit granting authority is free to enact reasonable regulations relating to parking. Here, the conditions which your client now objects to plainly relate to the parking areas at the project site. Accordingly, such unappealed conditions are well within the authority of the board's authority under the Dover Amendment." And lastly, I guess I'll just leave it for that for now. I mean, I spent a lot of time going over this and trying to find a way to be fair, but I think we've exhausted that. And I think at this point, without the applicant here and willing to have a discussion without telling us what we're going to do, I think, as Marnie said, I think the time has come to not extend the permit until we can get to where we go. And I will say as well, there are classes going on there now that are scheduled that go till 9 o'clock at night, which is again in violation of the dusk to dawn and the reason why we put that in. So I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Bellamy.
So admittedly, I have the least familiarity with this project, having been on planning board for less than a year. Watching from afar between them, but between now and then, excuse me. So I have only a few comments, and they're more binary, I guess. And so the first thing is from the op-ed that was submitted, that was in my South Bureau, I believe today. The line that I read that was interesting, I think we've surfaced this before, was along the lines of, and I just lost my spot to quote it, was they chose to not appeal because of, I think, the cost, prohibitive cost of litigation. Choosing not to appeal doesn't mean they agree or disagree. That was an option they had. If they stated that it was prohibitive, then one could conclude they didn't like the outcome. And as a nonprofit, I can see that would cost a lot of money. Fast forward to now, I can't imagine what we're going through now is inexpensive. I can't imagine what we're going through now is $0. It just seems interesting to me that the planning board ruled one way. There was a disagreement. The lawyers battled it out. I'm sorry, the lawyers discussed it. I shouldn't say that. And it comes down to, from what I read, was a difference of opinion about the interpretation of the Dover Amendment. That seems like to be like the major impasse. The last thing I read was Attorney Tallerman said, "I disagree with your view of it. Our interpretation is X." That's all I've read. So if I were an outsider catching myself up by looking in the packet here, I'd say, all right, well, it's now, I would guess for the attorney for the Historical Society to come back, because we're just playing this legal ping pong. I can appreciate the submission that was sent, but I don't even know if it's supported from a legal standpoint. So
Can you put up the parking thing that I sent you?
so just two more sentences and I'm done. So I'm of the opinion where I don't really know where it stands other than the last legal opinion I saw was from Tallerman. And as far as an opinion about the certificate of occupancy, I don't have an opinion on that.
So going through the permitting, we had our Jay was there and their counsel. The decision was discussed, condition booked by like every single line item in that condition. Just that decision was discussed and agreed upon prior to approval. The only thing that the president of the society pushed back against was native plants. And so what you regulate cannot make the, in essence, prohibit the project. Having a cultivar versus a native, there's no cost difference. So that was just, he didn't have that preference. That's in our code. That is a precedent that we have set here. So that was the only thing. But so these, in every single condition, is related to parking. So minimum parking ratios, which is the number of parking spaces. The width, setbacks, we didn't really get into, but screening or buffering requirements. We required some shrubs because there's a detention basin at the end of the parking lot. And that's where the parking in the deed set aside for the town residents to be able to park for the park across the street. So to prevent children from tumbling into the detention basin, we asked for shrubbery there. But you know, we tried very hard to work with them. Our parking requirements, which as we see here, screening or buffering is allowed. We have screening requirements in our landscaping for parking. And for this project would require 5 trees for the number of parking spaces. We didn't require that from them. That trees are expensive. We were working very hard to work with this nonprofit. We asked that they keep, there are 2 trees on site, that they maintain those, that now they're pushing back against that also. Also bituminous concrete is required for parking. They didn't, so that was too expensive. We said they wanted to do gravel. We agreed with that. But now there's asphalt, what are they called?
Asphalt grindings.
Asphalt grindings, instead. So they've done nothing on the approved site plan, none of the conditions, anything that's been done has been in violation of the site plan. They moved the accessible ramp, they moved the accessible parking spaces. Now they have only 1, which is in violation of federal and state law for the number of parking spaces there. As I said, it's the first time in my history that we've not required a bond, but we did require conditions that have not been met. Oh, yeah, and there was drainage required, which has not been done and has been the asphalt drillings, strippings, grindings have been put on top of where those are supposed to be. Yeah, and several changes have been made to the approved site plan. And per 17410H, any changes are required to come before the planning board for approval before they're made. So to me, there's no evidence that the Southborough Historic Society is going to make any attempt to bring this project into compliance. And all it is the parking lot. So although they've done an amazing job on the building, and I think it's a great asset for the town, our bylaws must be applied equally. And non-compliance creates a liability for the town and for the residents of the town. So I think that we should revoke the temporary certificate of occupancy until they comply with the conditions.
I'll see if I put this up, the Jim Hegarty letter that said exactly what we asked them to do.
Yeah.
So I think it also just confirms it right what we
It's
expected.
the notice of vote, the second
Yeah,
notice of vote with the
yeah.
extension.
So I've asked to just present
So
this.
is that,
the-
oh, that was, yeah. Oh,
Right, this was not the original, this was what came, I was not at this discussion. But this was the vote, notice of vote that we formalized, and it was 6 bullet points that was requested for the next scheduled meeting on May 11th. So the 6 bullet points are in front here, presented in on your screen, and essentially that in order for us to sign off on the TCO, it was contingent upon the conditions as agreed to by the Southborough Historic Society. And so the peer review retainer fee for the as-built review, the last bullet, was never received. The signage for the designated parking spaces related to deed easement were actually in violation of the deed easement. And then the other 4 have not been addressed. And so, you know, I would, I don't know if you want to, if there's public comment, but I would say we make a motion.
I don't think so. It's a discussion. We don't need to hear public comments. Do you want to?
Guess I just want to acknowledge that this is a beloved former town building, I agree. And this is a difficult situation. I think that there have been a couple of steps that have been made, but it hasn't complied. I agree. I don't know what is in the package that we received by email today. I don't believe it's actually been formally checked in. But, and I don't know that it's complete. But to go by and looking at the parking lot, it has been paved, which we just want to remind everybody, it was agreed by the Conservation Commission that they could use bituminous asphalt. And so I don't disagree. I don't believe it should have been gravel. I think that was the second choice. So I'm okay.
The gravel is in our site.
Right. But I'm hopeful that there's something in the modification now that at least shows the current condition. We do know from Mr. Delapiscoli that there was an attempt to paint the lines, although he was informed that they weren't according to our code. So there has been some progress there. We do know that there was an attempt at a sign, but we believe the sign wasn't good enough. I think there's only one. I'm not really sure about that, but only one. So there needs to be better signage. The number of parking spaces that's in the deed, the 8 along Central Street and the 4 additional for the members of the public who are using the park across the street, that still needs to get done. And there was also a conversation with the building inspector about having a larger spot, I guess, or more like in a van of some kind for.
That's required by law. So
Right, so I don't believe our original plan had that.
It did. It
for
had
this- for
one
large.
accessible space and one advanced
Okay.
accessible space, which was in compliance with state.
So although it didn't comply with us, what we wanted, there are some elements. And I think that we should continue to work with the proponent.
So that those 2 spaces, the one van accessible, that is state and federal law. That's requirement for the number of parking. So
So
they just.
they're just not in the right spot the way. with the.
No, they only have one and it's not van accessible. It's not in the right.
Oh, I thought there was a flexible, I thought John said there was a flexible spot. I haven't been down there to look at it. And the reason that they did it was because the ramp, I think, was put on the side of the building instead of the front of the building. So I really would like to hear from them, and I would be willing to give them a chance to come in before we take, I think it would be a drastic measure on the temp seal.
Well, the temp seal expires today.
So that we would have to take a vote then?
Yeah, so
They've been in and they've said they're gonna do things and they haven't.
So I hear where you're coming from, Deb, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the work that has been done there. And the building's beautiful. But when we started this discussion, for me, when we started this discussion in January, there were certain steps that were supposed to take place. One of them being the modification was supposed to be done, I think it was April 8th, sometime in April. And I think we worked really hard to try to, even again at our last meeting, we continued. We could have said that was it then. But we gave them another opportunity to do these 6 bullet points. And again, I thought it was a great discussion. We had some really good discussions with Mr. Delapiscoli. And, I really thought we were making progress. And then it's frustrating today that here we are with 6 bullet points that once again are just, not being done. And I just feel like I don't know any other applicant that we would have done it without a bond or had some other requirement. And I understand that they're a nonprofit and they're small and I get that. And I appreciate what they've done and the money they've spent on the building, but if we set a precedent now, I mean, I look back at Ken's and Long's and, there was no leeway. It was, you want this, you do the barn. And we've tried really hard to not have to do that. So I feel a little defeated, if you will, that I think we've extended so many olive branches, as Marty said, and here we are today at it having to take a drastic step because, promises, we're basically in the same place we were in, other than a few, like you said, some things being done. We're back to January again with, still fighting to try to get these things done and try to work together. And I'm hopeful that we're going to continue to work together in a positive way and get this done. I think that's what we all want. But as it sits today, I think we're setting a bad path for the next group that may or may not come in that, we may sympathize with in a lot of different ways, but the rules are the rules. And if we don't do them for everyone, then, I don't know. But I do appreciate what you said. I do. And I do believe that progress has been made to some degree, but not to where we need to be. That's all.
Public comment.
I don't know that it's going to change.
Is there anyone from the commission that's?
Not that I know of, unless John should public.
Is there anyone online
But there's not.
or anyone online with a hand raised? I should
There's
say.
5 people there, no hand. No.
So I'm going to make a motion, that the planning board, denies the extension of the temporary certificate of occupancy to 40-42 Central Street, Southborough Historical Society, History and Art Center.
I would say revoke.
Revoke the temporary certificate of occupancy.
Now, just a clarification, are we making a recommendation to revoke? Isn't it with the building commissioner?
Yes.
So we're making a recommendation?
Yes.
It's not a planning board decision to revoke it. We're making a recommendation. I just want to be clear. What's our purview?
So under our zoning code, the planning board needs to sign off on a temporary certificate.
So our vote is that to not sign off.
In
on
our
the-
meeting in January, on January 12th, and our building commissioner was here. She said that he would abide by the planning board's conditions for temporary certificate.
Okay, but the building commissioner is still the one in charge.
Yes.
So we are making a recommendation to the building commissioner to revoke.
Yes.
So I would reflect the amendment. So at second as amended.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, no.
Ratio, yes.
Dumbneck, yes.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, scenic road stone removal, DPW 361 Turnpike Road at Flag Road.
And I need to read the public hearing. Okay, this is the public hearing notice, scenic road stone wall removal pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 15C. Southborough Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Monday, May 11th, 2026 at 6:35 p.m. at the Public Safety Building Training Room, Southborough Police Fires Building, 3240 Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street. Oh, typo, and via Zoom to discuss the DPW application for removal of approximately 10 feet of stone wall along Flag Road at the corner of 361 Turnpike Road to move the existing fire hydrant further back to a safer location. A copy of the application and plans may be viewed at the planning office, the Southborough Townhouse during normal business hours, or in the planning board agenda center, www.southboroughma.gov/agenda center/planning-board-29. Any person wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated or join virtually via Zoom at the following link. www.southboroughma.gov/6745 virtual-meetings. Their ads were run on Friday, May 1st, 2026, and Monday, May 4th, 2026 is required. And the ads was also sent to towns, local towns and agencies as required. This is the public hearing opening. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Condit.
Good evening. I hope everyone is doing well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you can.
Perfect. Can I share my screen?
Yes, give me 1 second. Colleen says yes.
And just for the public's orientation and the planning board, if you recall, 361 Turnpike was the permitted Valvoline station last year or a year and a half ago, with the minor site plan approval, which is currently under construction. And the hydrant is just up street, of that Valvoline station, right near that property.
Colleen says you should be able to share now, Bill.
Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So along the bottom here is Route 9. The Valvoline that Karina mentioned is the red tack in the center of the screen. Nan's Kitchen is immediately to the right of that. And Flag Road travels, I guess, to the northeast from Route 9. So I'm going to actually do a street view. Oops, whoa, hold on, come back. And what happens is people take that right off of Route 9 and they go up Flag Road. And we have a fire hydrant that's very close to the road. The hydrant's been struck a number of times. And currently, if you go out there, you won't see a hydrant because we took it out currently. The stone wall you can kind of see it here behind the hydrant. And surprisingly, it does not continue past the hydrant. So the goal of this project is to move the fire hydrant back 10 feet. And in order to do that, we would have to dismantle a section of that stone wall that lies right behind the hydrant. Bob Lattis, the owner of the property, was kind enough to grant us an easement. So we have a 10-foot by 10-foot easement currently. And this is a plan view showing Flag Road. This is the hydrant immediately adjacent to it. We plan to take out that section of 10-foot wall. We're not planning on doing anything with that wall, meaning we're not planning to rebuild it or reconstruct it. We're simply looking to remove it and then move the fire hydrant 10 feet back onto the property. So that's really it in a nutshell. So I will stop sharing and ask if you have any questions.
Ms. Houlihan.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Can you just let us know what you do with the removed section of stone?
We do have an area up by the transfer station where we're starting to collect the stone that we remove and hopefully accumulate some quantity of stone. Most recently, you may recall, we had a hearing a number of months ago for Richards Road where we have a few stones. We had that contractor stockpile those up at the, we're calling it the staging area at the DPW. These would end up in the same location.
And I'm just curious, like, what happens with those stones? So I know you have a place where you're storing them, but like, let's just say someone's on a historic stone wall or a historic road, scenic road. Feels like a Friday. And they need to rebuild their stone wall and might need some stones. Is that something like people could access?
I would think they could have a conversation with the DPW and then we'd see the suitability or appropriateness, make sure it's in fact, a common boundary line between the town and the resident, and then go from there. But yeah, we're open to having conversations like that.
Excellent. Thanks, Bill. Very clear.
Yes. No, no problem. Hi, Bill. So just curious, if you put it south, that would be on the Valvoline property, if you were to take that 10 feet and just relocate it?
That's correct.
Do they have any plans for that? Or I don't know what I can't recall if they're putting trees or something in there. I know they took a bunch down.
That's currently within the 100-foot buffer zone, according to their permitted plan. I did speak with Melissa Danza, and she said this wouldn't trigger conservation, even though it's on the very outskirts of that 100-foot zone. Could they use it? Yeah, but he gave us an easement, so now he can't. Not to sound rough about it, but it's a utility easement for water.
Okay. And I would just, I'd like to keep the stones on Flag Road. There's a few houses, a couple 100 feet away, probably, where there was some construction going on and the person was trying to build a stone wall with stones that were being dug out of the earth. So if there's a way to keep it on flag, I'd be appreciative. I don't know if that's possible, but I have somebody in mind, or maybe even a couple of neighbors down there who might be very interested in the stones. Is it possible?
Like I said, I'm open to having conversations if a resident wanted to come in. We wouldn't want somebody that's working in the town right of way that's not properly insured or qualified to construct a wall. We'd probably want a mason to do it. So that's the kind of conversation I expect I would have with someone.
Okay. If it's okay, I'll maybe put you in touch with somebody, or put that person in touch with you if it's a possibility. Ms. Brusher?
Thank you. Hi, Bill. Thank you for coming tonight. Just a thought. We had already worked with the applicant for Valvoline to remove and replace with on-site some other parts of the stone wall. Is that something we can check with them on, that maybe those stones could just be replaced somewhere else on site? That was part of the site plan that we did. We moved stones, so I think it was on the Route 9 side, and they were gonna redo.
Do you want to read want Karina to read the condition?
Please, thank you.
So in the decision for a minor site plan approval for Valvoline, condition number 8 was historic stones from the existing stone walls impacted by the project shall be retained and reused along Flag Road, a scenic road.
So maybe we can check with them, Bill, and see if there's somewhere on site that they can be reused prior to putting them and leaving, as Debbie said. I'd like to see them kind of stay with the property if possible.
Sure. I'm happy to talk to the contractor and the owner and let them know that, I'll give them first dibs, if you will, at the stone. And if they don't want it, we'll take it.
Okay. But if you would share with them that planning board is interested in the stone staying on site, that would be appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm gonna look at you in this camera, Bill. So thanks for showing up tonight. Appreciate it. Just to understand, so there's no stone wall to the other side of the hydrant. So if we were to remove 10 feet, it wouldn't look like there's a gap in the wall. It would just look like the wall is just beginning at the proposed new terminus. Is that right?
That is correct. I'm going to caveat that with I can't tell by looking at the street view if the stone wall continues because of the vegetation.
Okay.
If I go strictly by the plan that has been provided by Cornerstone, it looks like it goes slightly beyond the 10-foot area. So in theory, you would have a 1 or 2 foot section of wall, a 10-foot gap, and then the rest of the wall. So we would likely remove that section of a stone wall to the end.
Okay. One request is that while as much as I love Google Street View, an in-person verification would be requested. The other question I have is, so you talk about a 10 by 10 easement. My understanding is that would just be to excavate, access the piping and all that kind of stuff. Is that right? Is that why the 10 feet along the stone wall is requested, just so you have enough buffer area?
That's right. We're going to have a backhoe that's positioned perpendicular to the stone wall, and they would excavate so that they could lay a section of pipe and then have the hydrant stem come up from that section of pipe. So in order to do that, they have to have that certain amount of width to work.
And then the last question is, I don't know if you have specific experience with doing exactly the item we're talking about, but is there ever an opportunity where you are requesting 10 feet, but due to field circumstances, you need more?
The site's very cleared at this point. So while the Google Street View doesn't allow you to see things clearly out in the field, you can see that, you know, the site's relatively clear. I'm sure we shouldn't have any issues. It looks like good material based upon what I'm seeing when I drive by. I don't anticipate any need for a larger area.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bill. So the proponents for Valvoline had committed, and the site plan shows that they were going to build a stone wall along Flag out on their property outside of the right of way. So if they want 10 more feet, if they're already doing it, that may be, helpful. And like the other members of the board, I'd like to keep the historic stones on Flag. So if we can do that, I'm good.
Yes, you can do more bunch here.
Yeah, because so they had to disassemble stone walls on the site, and they were going to reassemble them as a stone wall along Flag in the site plan.
Sure, I'm happy to offer it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we good?
A hearing, any question or comment from the vast public? Anyone on Zoom have any questions or comments?
No hands.
Okay,
So I make a motion to approve the
Ronnie, can we close the public
Oh,
hearing first?
yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. I make a motion to close the public hearing for Scenic Road Stone Wall Removal, DPW 361 Turnpike Road, Flag Road.
A second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Saying none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Bellniak, yes.
I make a motion to approve the Scenic Road Stone Wall Removal, DPW 361 Turnpike Road, Flag Road. With the preferred condition that the stones remain on Flag Road.
With Valvoline getting first dibs
With Valvoline
to complete their
getting first
plan.
dibs.
I second, as amended.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Saying none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Bellniak, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
Bill.
I expect to see dibs in the decision. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 22 Turnpike Road, golf range modification to major site plan approval. I believe they requested to continue without testimony. Okay, do we need to
That's
extend the
correct.
decision date?
No, our next meeting is June 1st, and they have a extension that was granted with planning board action to June 5th. June 5th.
Oh, okay, so just.
Yeah, at the bottom of the
continue-
agenda.
Continue the public hearing.
So I make a motion to continue the public hearing for 22 Turnpike Road, golf range modification and major site plan approval to June 5th, no, to June first. I'm really having some issues today. I apologize. For 7 p.m. or 6:45. Oh, I'm not gonna ask you. 6:40?
6:45.
For 6:45 p.m. A second.
Oh, I can't. 5 a.m. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Saying none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Bellniak, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Stivers is here, Mr. Belniak, if the board is okay, I'd like to move the wastewater presentation up.
We have a public hearing.
This can't start
So
soon.
we can't start soon. This shouldn't be too long. Is that fine with everybody? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Stivers.
Thank you very much. Accelerating the process a little. For the viewers who don't know me, I'm Sam Stivers. I'm chair of the wastewater study committee. Mr. Deliak was a longtime member of that committee as well. So the objective here is to update the planning board on where we stand. We're still very early in the process. We have a lot of things that are important that we don't know yet. But I think communication is important across various boards. And so this is an attempt to make sure everything's on the same page as far as where we are, what we think the next steps are, and longer term view of where this might go. So at the slides here, I'll do this fairly quickly. Our charge, we were formulated in late 24, I guess. And early 25, we got appointed and off and running. We're charged with developing a plan for wastewater treatment services, primarily to serve locations on Route 9, and assess the feasibility of such a system. And if the system appears to be feasible, create a high-level comprehensive plan for development, and then make periodic progress reports as we move along here. So that's what we've been doing for the last year and a half, basically. And if we cut to the chase, next slide, please. What we would like to ask the planning board for is to support the district improvement financing area plan that we're working on. I'll talk more about what that means later. Maybe ideally to take the plan to fall town meeting in this year. Again, still very tentative. We don't have all the pieces put together, but that's our goal. And then help as needed with site acquisition and finding additional system users and volume, and with communications if the plan details get clear. So again, a lot of pieces that need to be put together here. Details yet to be determined, but communication and support from the public, because we need a vote at town meeting not only to approve the financing area that we're talking about, but then if there's borrowing, which is likely associated with the development system, need to go to town meeting for that, which we all know is a pretty steep hill to climb these days. So again, we're a long way from actually having anything done, but the goal is to make sure we communicate actively as we go along. So next slide, please. What we've learned, we've talked with a number of people who are expert. We've got some great expertise on the committee, and we've had consultants look at this generally as well from prior studies. And we'd like to find a system that for Route 9 has at least 300,000 gallons a day in wastewater capacity, ideally 500,000 gallons a day. And to put that in perspective, that's only for a small portion of the town. That would not be the town as a whole. Westboro, for example, has a system that serves Westboro, Shrewsbury, and part of Hopkinton. Their capacity is about 7 million gallons. So ours is pretty small in terms of their systems. Marlboro has 2 wastewater plants that have even greater capacity. So again, it's fairly small focus to allow growth along Route 9, commercial growth along Route 9.
Can I interrupt one question?
Sure.
When you say Route 9, what are you talking? Like, where's your start and finish when you're talking about this project?
Westboro, Framingham.
Oh, okay. So the
entire-
full length of
entire
Route 9. Okay,
I'll talk a little bit more about the affected area, which is
Okay.
not
thank you.
uniform along here. Basically, the area we believe is most likely to benefit from this system. If you look at it on the map, it's sort of along Route 9 through the middle of Route 9 with a blob on each end, because there's property and development opportunity all more on each end as so again, we've looked at capacity and we've determined it's technically feasible to build a plant that does this. Potential plant sites exist. Unfortunately, we don't own any sites, so that's a problem to get property. Right? Ground discharge is required. If you do wastewater, the traditional way is to dispose the effluent in rivers, and the EPA has basically shut that down. So Westboro wants to expand. They discharge into the Sudbury River. That's a problem for them because they got to find ground discharge sites. Marlboro does the same. So we've got to do ground discharge And the plant size, we've got 5 acres or so. Ground discharge area might be 15, 20 acres, depending on soil conditions. So yeah, it's a challenge to find property.
Sam, could you just speak up just a little bit?
Okay.
Just a little bit, because I fear that it doesn't carry
Okay,
well in this
sorry.
room. That's okay.
So again, ground discharge is going to be required for this, and that's one of the things we're looking for. But technically, it can be done. The challenge is actually finding a way to pay for it. Because there are ways to actually pay for a plant when it's on operation. For example, you can get user fees. You can charge betterment fees for people who don't use the system, but who could use the system. And then you could also use this district improvement financing that I'm going to talk about in more details, where you can calculate the additional tax revenue that the system produces and then take some portion of that and cycle that back in to pay for debt that you use to build the system. But all that requires a system to be running. So front end cost is a big challenge, and we haven't figured that one out yet. We're actively exploring grants, loans, and other such sources of funding, but that's still a major hurdle for us. So again, financing and construction is the big issue. So next, what we've learned, again, recent activities. Sorry.
I'm sorry, my finger clicked. I didn't know which way it went.
Sorry. We're continuing to investigate feasible sites for plant and discharge area. We have a first draft of a district improvement financing plan, details in a moment here. We're looking for money, grants, loans, betterment fees, service fees, maybe a little bit of design money from the 2026 fall special town meeting. Regional collaboration with Westboro. We've actively been talking with Westboro. They need some more capacity. They're waffling on exactly how they want to do that. So they are they're not urgently looking for it, but eventually they're going to have to do that. So we want to keep the communication lines open. We've talked to Marlboro as well. We talked to Framingham. Framingham is on the MWRA system. Unfortunately, that's not available for us. MWRA has some capacity, but the challenge is the system between us and Deer Island, where they process, are combined systems typically where they pump stormwater and wastewater through the same pipes. So if it doesn't rain, we can do it. If it rains, those pipes are overwhelmed and they discharge now some into the Boston Harbor, the Mystic River, the Charles River, and Alewife Brook, which the EPA has said you can't do that. So they're under huge pressure not to take any more capacity from the west. So we're unlikely to be able to use some Framingham system. So again, we're looking for financing sources, and we're continuing to communicate with neighbors and others with experience of how you do this, looking for hints from people who've done this effectively. Littleton has put in a system that's similar to what we're talking about. Sadly, that was a 20-year project for them. And what they needed was they couldn't figure out how to pay for it either. They had an IBM facility on 495 that was about 50 plus acres that IBM surplus. A developer came along, bought it, and is now putting in a substantial commercial development. And he has agreed to pay for over half the cost of their system. So that was the trigger that allowed them to get the financing. So we don't have that yet. So anyway.
Sam, I just ask one question? So can you just go back to Framingham and the stormwater and the discharge for this? So how does Framingham work now?
Framingham's on MWRA.
Right. Do they have separate pipes? I guess I'm a little confused on
They
what
have
you
a
said.
connection in the
Okay.
southeast corner of Framingham.
Okay,
That's into the MWRA system. So they pump their wastewater into that connection, and then it goes east through the MWRA
right.
pipes.
What about the stormwater? Because you just,
Everything goes.
so the stormwater as
Yeah.
well goes through there. Okay,
Combined systems go.
Okay.
And again, big rainstorm, it's overwhelmed, and they overflow. They call it CSO, combined system overflows. And the EPA said you got to cut that out.
Yeah.
MWRA spent billions of dollars cutting that down. About 99% of it historically used to go in Boston Harbor, Charles River. So great progress, but not all.
Okay, no, I wasn't clear on how Framingham did it, so thank you.
Okay, let's next side DIF plan. This district improvement financing is an interesting concept. There's a state law that says you can define an area in your town that's no more than 25% of the total area of town. You can measure the current tax take from that area. And then you can build a system and measure the increased tax value in that particular area and take some portion of that increased tax take, cycle that back into pay for the system. Sadly, again, that's only after the system is built, so that doesn't initially finance it. So what we've done is we've looked at the maps, and we have a initial thought about this area. which is about 1,600 acres, again, along Route 9 with a blob on each end, basically. And about 600 property parcels, about $800 million of current assessed value. And if we can do this quickly, we can set the assessed value benchmark at January 1, 2026. And then later, when we build the system, we calculate the increased value, the increased property taxes from that area, which is largely commercial along that line, and take some portion of that. And towns take anywhere from 10% to 100% of that increased tax revenue to pay for their system. That's something that we can decide as a community. So that's sort of the plan that we're working on now. What we don't know is we don't actually have a site, which is unfortunate because the plan, you need to have a better idea of the site. And we don't have the financing plan in place yet. And that's an important part of the plan. So again, all very preliminary, but that's sort of where we think we're headed. So we're continuing to look at suggestions from various other people who've done this. Mr. Valiant has made a major contribution from artificial intelligence work. If you look at the 15 or 20 towns who've done this, hopefully there's some real intelligence in there. But 15 or 20 other towns have done it. There are 2 or 3 consultants who've actually worked with these towns to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars of fees. If you look at it, about 80% of it's boilerplate. And so if you take that and create the boilerplate, what's not boilerplate is your site details, your system design, and your finances. So that's what we're trying to leverage here to do it cost effectively. So that's been a great step forward for us. And we're working to continue to focus on the TBD areas, site location and financing issues in this DIF area plan with the hope that we can take that to the fall town meeting. So again, not there yet, long way to go. The sad news is that even if everything goes perfectly, it's a multi-year project. Takes a long time to get these done. As you folks know, a long time to get things through town meeting. And I'm probably not going to be around to see it launched, but hopefully it'll be faster than Littleton's. So again, the goal is to find a way to find commercial tax revenue to offset our pressure on residential property tax payments. Everybody's concerned about that. Route 9 area is the only area in town that has the opportunity to generate commercial tax revenue to help carry that burden. So that's sort of the underlying objective for the whole exercise. So work plan is to continue to pursue these issues and find better information about each one of these things. And again, what we ask is for your support as these details become clearer to help get some of these things done. And again, there's some real milestones here. The bad news is that if you can't find the site, then we're on indefinite hold. If we can't figure out financing, we're on indefinite hold. Interesting tidbit is an interesting site opportunity that is unlikely, but we're still talking. If you look at Route 495, just north of Route 9, the lanes divide there. And there's about 30 acres between the lanes up there. There's a communication tower and facility up there that MassDOT owns. And MassDOT, real estate people actually make it a habit of finding ways they can generate revenue from those kinds of properties. We've made that request to them, and so far they're basically ignoring us, but at least they're talking to us. So we hope that there may be something there. Unlikely, but those are the kinds of things we're pursuing. Find a site, but the neighbors don't mind that location. So that was nice. Again, last slide, we put an appendix. We got a timeline here that we developed, and it's next slide, please. Next, yes. You can't read this, but it's in the packet. You can blow it up and read it if you're interested. But again, a lot of steps that have to happen here, and any one of these paths that don't work out can delay us indefinitely, which is unfortunate. But again, as I'm reminded by my children's hockey coaches as they grew up, you don't shoot, you don't score. So I think it's worth trying. It's the only opportunity that I'm aware of that gives us some hope of property tax relief for the residential property tax. And we're way behind, as folks know. This tax shift has been going on more and more toward the residential side. Residential property prices have gone up. Commercial has stabilized, and more the burden comes on residential taxpayers. This, I think, is the only realistic hope. Long shot, but you got to try. So that's where we are. We will stay tuned and continue to update people as this goes along. And as we get more specific asks, we'll certainly circle back to you. Mr. Valiak is the best source of detail about what's going on with planning board member.
Want to add anything, Alan?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks, Sam, for walking us through that. What one thing is to underscore what Sam said, and then one piece is sort of additional commentary. If we don't find a site for the facility, we're stuck. If we don't find a site for the discharge area, we're stuck. If we don't find money for either one of those, we're stuck, right? So it's not, I mean, I know I'm stating it as we said, it's not like we have 2 or 3, we're good to go. Like we do need all 3. The reason we're the barbell map that Sam had referenced is we're looking at any and all properties up and down just for what's at all even potentially feasible. We're looking at things like the soil quality, does it perk? We're looking at the size, who owns it, the grade, all kinds of things, just to even get a candidate list of properties. So that's the thing I wanted to underscore. One other thing I wanted to add was that initially we were looking at trying to find one contiguous piece of property that could support the leaching field. That would be a pretty large piece of land. So what we're now looking at are, can we find discontiguous pieces and perhaps connect them through some piping or whatnot, which would make things potentially more expensive, right? But while we have no interest in driving up the purchase of the cost of this anymore, we're just trying to be comprehensive in the way we're looking at it. At the end of the day, we might get everything lined up, but the price is just too much, and that's what it is. But what we don't want to do is preliminarily preclude something just because, oh, the piece of land isn't big enough by itself. So I just wanted to add those 2 things to Sam's otherwise great presentation.
And Alan, that triggers another thought here quickly. We've also looked at phasing this in the sense that if it's more cost effective to do the western end first, for example, there's more likely opportunity for additional commercial tax revenue on the western end on the Westboro side, and then adding other pieces as time passes. Those are possibilities that actually increases some of the costs in terms of how you build it and expand it and so forth. But at least those options exist. Other people have done those kind of things. So we're open to any possibilities to allow us to get our foot in the door and get this in place over an extended period of time.
Thank you. Ms. Holmes?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. I think my only comment that comes, obviously, there's quite a lot of obstacles, as you mentioned. I think the other thing is, I understand the tax burden, but I think people choose to live in Southborough because they don't want to live in Framingham and Westboro.
Yep.
That the whole appeal to Southborough is that we actually don't have a sewer system and septic system, and that we don't have massive development. That's why I moved here, and that's why a lot of my peer group moved here. So I think that's going to be one of the major obstacles that you'll have to get over at town meeting.
And that's why one reason, again, we focus on the Route 9 area. That at least doesn't focus on.
But you have to drive through it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because our schools are neighborhood schools.
Yep.
So you can't actually get from point A to point B easily.
Mr. Murray?
Well, thank you both. This is I know it's an enormous amount of work. I do have I was going to mention something very similar, Maureen, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to just let you know of the 2 towns that you mentioned, Littleton and Framingham, they both have a split tax rate. And so I think that there's an acknowledgement that the commercial properties should be paying more than the residents. And so I wonder if you've considered that. Of course, that's not your charge, but maybe looking at
Every year.
Yes, but it's really kind of glossed over. This is going to potentially be put on the backs of residents, right? And I know you're looking to figure out how is it going to be funded, but why not look at the split tax rate of the 15 to 20 towns that you mentioned? And I know Allenhurst, Littleton, Framingham. Why not look at how many of those have split tax rates in order to pay for it?
Yes.
So that's one of my questions.
And you sort of get at that through betterment fees, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
For people who have access to the system, they pay for the enhanced value of their property that way. So that's what a lot of towns do when they charge betterment. So it's not a direct property tax, but it's effectively the same kind of shifting that load to people who could use the system. So we haven't really focused on the split tax rate issue.
Yeah,
Other
and
people
Littleton
count
isn't a
it.
2 to 1. It's just like incremental,
Yeah.
and the state puts those out there so we can take a look. But I do have a question and concern about the diff. So you mentioned 600 properties. Many people, so our residents are right along
Sure.
Route 9. So the 600 properties is probably residents. And I guess and I think a little piece of my property is industrial in the way back, and some people along Flag Road. So does that mean that those, the taxes from those parcels are going would be
No,
going toward
no,
this wastewater?
No, this isn't a tax. It basically takes additional tax revenue from those parcels after the system is operating.
From residents?
No, well, residents pay the taxes.
Yeah.
But the residents don't pay any more tax than they otherwise would have without the system here. But if there's incremental tax revenue from those parcels, ultimately, the DIF program would allow you to take some portion of that increment, but usually it's not 100%. So the rest of it would go into the general fund. So we refocus some of that money they pay for the borrowing for the additional system. So effectively, people are paying for some of that, but they're also, again, getting additional tax revenue, which would offset some of our personal property taxes.
So how is a resident getting additional tax? I think I need to understand it more, and I don't want to waste a lot of time here, but how is a resident, so people at the end of Flag Road, right near Valvoline, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
that's completely industrial.
Right.
How are they getting tax revenue? I'm not sure I understand that.
They will pay taxes as
They're
usual,
paying what?
but if
Think, wouldn't they be included in the betterment, Sam, then? If their property's partially in industrial?
we do a betterment, which
Yeah.
we're not necessarily,
But if you did,
if we did, that's
they
right.
could potentially pay more.
They could pay a betterment fee if we did that. That's one of the things that makes a betterment hard to sell.
Yeah.
So, and that
Great.
diminishes people's eagerness for it, so.
Yeah.
but a
Based
lot of
on
communities-
capacity or just the property? Like the betterment fee is based on how much you use, how much you
Well,
The
no.
betterment fee is based on the property's value.
on the value. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and again, Debbie, I'll be happy to sit down and talk through, but essentially you pay the same amount of tax that you otherwise would have paid.
Right.
But the increment of value, the tax revenue over the years for your property, some of that goes back to pay for the system operation. The bulk of it, typically in most towns, goes back into the general fund, and that reduces your tax burden from that system.
Oh, yeah, I definitely have a lot to learn on that.
Right.
I would just say, I don't think there's a shared vision about Route 9. I think what we heard
Yep.
when Costco came, there was a huge shared vision. Everybody came out of the woodwork to vote for it. But we have everything from what we heard at candidates night. One of the
Yep.
candidates said, I don't really think we need more development in town. To we need more big box stores, 50,000 square feet or whatever. So I don't, the real answer is somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of people that like small business, and I'm one of them. But until we have a shared vision, and I think, well, as you know, with master plan implementation, we plan to kind of tackle that and see what does the town want to do. I know you're getting a head start on this because it's going to take years and years, but I wouldn't support bringing it to town meeting just yet.
Well, I agree. There's not a shared vision. That's one of the reasons why we're here.
Yeah.
The planning board plays a role in this kind of thing in terms of creating and supporting that kind of vision. So ultimately, what do you folks think this ought to be? If the planning board comes out and says, we don't want development on Route 9, then that makes this not possible to create that cost. So this is one of the reasons we're here and continue to talk with planning.
Ms. Brush.
Thank you, and thank you for that question, because my one of the questions I had was very similar to that, about you talked about the increased tax revenue, and so the betterment, I get that now. One of the concerns I've heard from people is no one knows what the cost of this is yet, Sam and Ellen.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we know the battle and what happened with trying to do a school. And the cost of that. So I don't know what the appetite is. And again, as you get further in your process, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I think you need to plan for town meeting,
Mhm.
is somebody saying, what's this gonna cost? $50 million? Well,
That's right.
you know what I mean? So again, I'm trying to give you some initial feedback on what I'm hearing from
And the number
people.
at least is 50-ish, if you do the whole thing.
Yeah. So again, people need to know that, and again, I get that. So another thing I've heard, and I think as well, is a lot of the businesses on Route 9 already have, they're established and they have their septic. So do you anticipate getting major pushback from businesses that don't plan to connect?
We've actually talked to them,
You have, okay,
and they've said, I would love to shut mine down
okay,
and turn this on. It's a hassle to run. And
Okay.
when it doesn't run, I got big problems. And so
Yeah.
I'd love to have the municipal system take care of that.
okay.
Not everybody has that.
Of
view,
course,
so you-
Okay, so
Interesting number.
I think the cost is the biggest thing. I think that's something we really need to prepare for. And as you go to town meeting, looking for any type of funding, whether for a study or whatnot, people are gonna wanna know, what do you think the cost is gonna be realistically before they invest? And I think we've seen that at the last couple town meetings. People are very ultra sensitive to this. And my only other question I have is, the Dell parcels, and I'm assuming a lot of this is focused for that underdeveloped, if you will, area over by Dell.
Yeah.
So what Dell parcels, I guess, left are able to still connect to Westboro? I know Westboro wasn't thrilled with the whole Costco thing and getting
I
the
think
water.
only the Costco.
Okay, just the Costco. Okay. And I think that was it for now. Cost. So what do you, just to have a clear understanding, if you're coming to town meeting in the fall, what are you planning to ask town meeting for? Money for a study or?
Two things.
Okay.
One, if we can come up with a reasonable diff plan
Okay,
to define that area. And put out the other pieces that we need there to have an approved diff plan.
Yeah.
Which the goal is, you want to do that as soon as you can, because you want to establish that baseline assessed value. And then the increment above that over the years is what you can take portions of to fund the thing. So the earlier you can set that, the more opportunity, the more upside there is for it. The other thing is that we are trying to find money to do some initial design work. And so that we've applied for grants in the past, and that gotten with the advanced development people. We're thinking about applying for more of that. And if we don't get that, then maybe town meeting to ask for some design money. But again, that's a big ask in the current fiscal situation.
and one final question. Do you think as you move forward with this, I mean, we're now to May and school's getting out soon and people are leaving and, town meetings coming up. What kind of outreach do you plan between now and potentially town meeting to, be able to educate the public when we know a lot of people in Southborough are gone for the summer?
We have talked about that. We don't have the perfect plan at this point, but we know that's critical. And given the recent efforts, school, for example.
Yeah.
Massive effort, didn't get it done. So what can we learn from that? So.
Okay.
Challenge. Adds to Alan's list of challenges, I think.
Great. To the honeydew list.
All right, that's it for me.
Nothing's easy.
Thank you.
Again, greatly appreciate your time and effort. Maybe you have.
I certainly do. So fall town meeting will be here in 15 minutes,
Right.
May.
Yeah.
And that goes so fast. And usually I know the planning board tries not to have any public outreach in the summer because people think, they're gone and they
Yeah.
don't think that they have proper access to that. So that's that. So I think the key is transparency moving forward. And a couple of things, like you're talking about increased commercial development, but I know I've watched some of the meetings and you've spent a lot of time talking about one of the committee members' personal multifamily housing project that he wants sewer for. That's not a good look.
Okay.
So it's either commercial or it's multifamily housing, and that's gonna be a tough sell. The other thing is the sites. I know a couple sites that were initially mentioned were open space sites. I hope you're not still pursuing open space. Does the committee have can you negotiate for real property?
No, you can't.
So you've had 2 executive sessions that used exemption 6, which is negotiating for real property.
I don't think we had those sessions. Those were in the agendas. But I think we decided we couldn't do that.
No, you didn't. I don't have the dates right here, but I can go. So I think that's another thing.
Okay.
You had one of the minutes from the executive sessions posted, and all it was a discussion of sites, but you didn't say anything specific in any of that.
Okay. No, we can't, certainly we can't grant the authority to buy anything. For sure. And we can't negotiate on behalf of the town. But
So you can't have executive sessions because using that exemption to negotiate for real property, maybe you have no, that's not your charge. I have. So that's another thing. I think you need to be for town meeting. You need to know what you're thinking about for sites.
Yeah.
This diff is a huge learning curve. Like, I don't know what that means. I'll have to, really look into that before I can make any decision on that. So I think that's gonna take a lot of outreach for people to understand.
Yeah.
The other thing, the meeting tomorrow night in Westboro, are you discussing wastewater there?
Yeah, what Westboro is actually looking at some wastewater expansion things potentially with developers there. And so Claire Reynolds has been our liaison with the Westboro economic development people. We're driving that conversation.
So it looks like there's gonna be more than a forum of the wastewater.
Two people.
Two people.
Claire,
Yeah.
Bob Boss,
I don't think Bob will
Bobby's
be
not
coming.
going to be there.
oh, he's not gonna be there.
Alan, Claire,
Brian Shea,
I'm not that aware of.
I thought that's Claire, so, all right, just
Yes.
be aware.
They're
Yep.
very aware of the open meeting law.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks again for the opportunity.
It's a lot of work. It's
We'll
gonna
be
be a heavy,
It's
heavy
done a
lift.
ton of work already.
But again, we don't.
Yeah.
That's why we're here now to.
Yeah.
We didn't want to get too far down the
That's
path.
cool.
And say, hey, guess what we have? And have planning board say, wait, what is this?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
No,
no,
appreciate
it's
it. Yeah,
gonna be tough. I think that public outreach and education is, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right,
Again,
Thank you.
very
thank
much.
you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dan.
Good conversation. Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 154 Turnpike Road modification to major site plan approval. Update on that, Karina? Okay. How much does the town pay for air conditioning? It's freezing.
So, so since our last meeting, which an extension was granted, which also brings the planning board's action deadline to June 5th. We would continue to tonight. The day of the last meeting, Capital Group Properties submitted a landscape plan and a memo on lighting, which was distributed to the planning board members for review. Other than that, not much else has happened.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you would like to present?
No, I don't know how you want to handle this. I mean, we could go through the landscape plan, I guess, first, and then go through the lighting. I mean, however you want to do it. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the
Want to
plan.
take one section at a time or?
Probably.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do landscape first, because that's good news.
Yeah.
Good place to start.
Do you want to discuss it or do you just want questions?
I mean, Justin can sort of explain, what they did. He had the landscape architect do and just sort of walk you through the plan. I don't know if they pick it up there.
Yeah, wait till they pull it up.
Yeah.
Stick it up on the screen. The landscape plan for 154.
Shannon voice. Hold on.
Under Shannon. Then the
I'm
last
just trying to get it to share a screen. There's just hardly one screen.
submission to.
It's not-
I
Now that,
Oh, sure.
there's a new one, dated 4/27.
I think that.
I
was-
have it, I just, no, I didn't.
I think she just had it up,
In the Dropbox?
but she just had it up a minute ago. I think that's it.
Yep, that's it. So basically on the left side, you have your table.
Justin, can you just?
Oh, yeah.
The record?
Justin DePietri with Capital Group Properties. So on the left side, you have the table. We removed all the, so the plan is basically remove all the grasses and black eye Susans that are currently there that are not native. All the new plants going in are native. There was a bunch of shrubs added, perennials, ornamental grasses, trees. Some of the new trees we proposed to plant in the back left area, which was where that drive-through was, to permanently prevent traffic there, and also some screening for the neighbor that was at one of the original hearings. And then we're also proposing a bunch of shrubs on the back property line, which is where that original privacy fence was proposed. So instead of the fence, we're proposing putting a bunch of the shrubs there to kind of help vegetate that and do a little more additional screening. Other than that, that's really it.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I didn't have any questions. I was just, I think you meet all the obligations, at least in the paper version, and I didn't do the cross check between your submitted, you far exceed the shrubs and plants and what we're asking for, so appreciate that aspect of it. The landscaping, I defer to my resident experts. I'm a lighting person, so you're gonna have fun with me later. But I have no questions on this.
Ms. Demerda.
I just, and everybody, thank you for working with us. This looks much better. I actually don't have any comments for you tonight.
Ms. Brashia.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. This is much better, very much better. I appreciate the corner where the cut through was. So I have no further comments other than that right now. Thank you.
Mr. Belknap.
I have no comments other than what my fellow planning board members have already said.
I have a couple. It looks good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the screening is there where that driveway is. I have a couple questions. There's the 34 Inkberry that they're showing up as existing. But they weren't shown as existing on the previous plan. That was like the maidenhair was there. Are they there?
What are you on, the existing plan?
34 IG, it's in the
That's on the no,
northwest corner.
those aren't there. Those are on the proposed plan.
So those are proposed.
Yeah,
So those.
yeah, everything you see is actually like the proposed, what the final will be. So all the only thing staying are the trees from what's original,
Okay.
because the stuff that's there now isn't native.
Okay, so the proposed Inkberry is not native.
Uh,
It's a shamrock, which is a cultivar. And by
Okay. I
definition,
I've got to check that.
if you can just do a straight Inkberry, that would be fabulous. And you're replacing the brown-eyed Susans. The one you're replacing it with is not native.
It is. The brown-eyed Susans. I'll have them check that too, because we pulled all these off of like a native Massachusetts approved list.
Okay, look at.
Is it because of the plant or the, like, the common name to it?
So that, just that, that particular plant is not native to New England. There are brown-eyed Susans that are, that's just not one of them.
Okay,
And anything that has a name is a cultivar, and that's not native. Native is, naturally occurring, and if somebody creates it, that's not natural.
okay.
So the other, I assume like the flowering pear, those are already there.
Yeah, all the only trees that we're planning on adding are the 3 evergreens, which are going where the drive-through area
Oh,
was.
okay, so those are the only ones being added.
So,
And then just one question, along Breakneck Hill, there are those 6 maples, and then there's this huge naked spot, and then one more.
there's a electrical transformer and telephone pole there, which is why that was kind of left open.
Did any shrubs or anything go there?
Yeah.
In the original site plan decision, it was asking for extra screening there because it's abuts residential.
Okay.
So if a couple of shrubs can go in there.
Do you want us to just keep the quantities and move stuff around, or add a few there?
Oh, adding would be great.
Silly question.
Do you really know what you're asking?
But I'm not gonna be here, so. That's all I have. So it looks good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'll confirm those few things on the species when we submit the final one.
Oh, okay. And now on to lighting. Less happy stuff. Do you want to discuss anything, or you just want to take questions?
It's up to you. I mean, if you want me to read
No.
the memo, then we can. Thank you.
We did that once. Ms. Houlihan.
So, I guess the memo was an admirable attempt. However, it's very clearly stated in the bylaw that was approved on May 21st, 2022 by annual vote of annual town meeting. The area that you cite as the first part of the memo, number 2, that you quote that it's effective date, it should be okay, but you forgot the part that says fixtures or luminaires requiring replacement for any reason, even if the developer decides to change all the luminaires, including but not limited to end of life, breakdown, vandalism, shall be replaced in compliance with this bylaw and further comply with the guidance outlined in the rules and regulations. So the rules and regulations didn't guide this, it's the bylaw. And the bylaw is very clear on the requirements within that. And that is where it necessitates us understanding the hardscape and the luminaires, which I think you exceed. And so I think it was coming back to the same conversation that we needed to have around how do we adjust for that? Because you're not in compliance with the lighting bylaw. As much as this memo attempts to state you are, you helpfully clarified that you did in fact purchase this after the law was enacted. So the lights were changed after the bylaw was actually a bylaw. So we have that. And so now we do need you to be in compliance with the requirements for that area, which is a calculation. And so the question is, can the lighting that exists, can we change the LED light bulbs? Because right now they exceed the luminaires based on the spec sheets that you required. They're still at the higher, they're at the higher luminaire. 4,000, I think, and I think 3,000 was our maximum. And then the actual volume of what it displaces. So you exceed by your hardscape calculation the amount of light that you put out onto the area. There's also trespass. I'm not gonna worry about the trespass on Route 9. That's
Okay.
from my perspective, that's kind of a non-issue. But I do want to make sure that we are trying to do what this entire bylaw attempted to do, which was really protect Southborough. That's what our town wanted, was the nighttime illumination. And protect our critters. And so the illumination that you guys pump out of there now just exceeds that. So we just need to, that's where I had offered to say, let's just have some conversations offline, figure out like, what can you do with those? I'm not saying pull up any lighting fixtures. I understand it's a very expensive process, but is there any way to change the light bulbs in those fixtures? I think that's what we have to evaluate.
Yeah, we looked at, Justin, what did you look at with the,
We looked at,
talk to the manufacturer about if there's a way to adjust?
yeah, there's not really a way
Lighting level.
to, they're not like dimmable. So they're meant to just go on off. So like if you try and put a dimmer on it, it just like they're eventually just gonna short out, or they'll be kind of flashing like at night.
Can you replace the actual LED lights that are in the fixture though?
I don't think you can. I'd have to ask them. We did look at maybe putting some like shields, like to help on like the breakneck hillside, have like a piece of metal made up to help with the light spillage.
Yeah, because I think I mean, yes, trespass is an issue, but I think it's still the amount of actual, how much lighting you are pumping into the environment right now, which far exceeds what you are, you know, allowed to even do on the original site plan. So that's my worry. And so how can you do that? So
I'll let that manufacturer.
Yeah,
I just
we'll talk to the manufacturer and see if there's something.
but I want to work with you. So
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
honestly,
We're
you have my
trying to-
telephone
obviously we're
number
trying to
and
get this
I'm like the lighting
figured out.
expert on the planning
Yeah.
board. So if there's a way that we can kind of figure out, not a workaround, but like something for you to help modify those lights. Cause
Yeah.
I can imagine that, like, you know, obviously you don't want to mess with manufacturer's equipment because it nullifies all your warranties and all those things. But like, if there are ways that you might be able to do something.
Okay.
We should have a conversation because otherwise that's a huge, like, we don't want you to tear stuff up.
Yeah.
I don't want you to tear stuff up. I think that's more detrimental to the outcome. And I don't know how the planning board would think about, you know, we don't necessarily want to override a bylaw that we specifically approve, but how to think about what our options are. And I think if we're just open with the conversation, like what can the options be? Let's do that.
So we'll reach out to the manufacturer and then I'll email you and let you know what.
Yeah, and I'm happy to like sit on a call too.
Okay.
I mean, I will say I'll be launching my new business after submitting for a non-compete for 12 months. I've been a little bit anxious to start my company. I'm a little busy, but like in the next 2 to 3 weeks, like we have time, like I have honestly open days. I'm more than willing to sit
Okay.
down and have a conversation.
I'll call them this week and maybe at least hear what they have to say and what options could be.
Yeah, that's great. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
those are my comments.
Mr. Murray.
And that's wonderful. Thank you. Please work with Marnie. I can't add anything to that, but you know, I do think it's important because we have a lot of businesses along Route 9 and it is starting to look like Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury. So you know, I just want everybody to be in compliance so we can you know, it's also extending into the neighborhoods. I'm not even sure that there's a lot of residents that don't even really understand that we have dark sky you know, initiative here in town. So it starts with you guys. You can really set the pace, and I appreciate you working with.
Okay.
Marty.
Ms. Farshio.
Again, I defer to Marty on this, and she is a great resource for you, so I highly recommend, you know, that you utilize the knowledge that she has on this, because as she said, it's wanting to work together to get this done. You know, we all benefit from this, so I recommend that. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Bellia.
Not much additional to add other than just a metaphor. I just work with Marnie. She's great. She has the interest of the planning board in mind. The metaphor is when I'm at work and we're looking to do something with a vendor or something, the vendor comes back and says they can't. We get our lawyer involved. The lawyer writes something. They send it to the other lawyer. The lawyer responds to that. They send something back. They send something like, can we just get people on a call? Which is, it goes, the throughput is so much more. So I understand why you might want to prep for that and all those kinds of things, but if there's a call, a video call, audio call or anything, I think we could get this done fairly quickly.
Okay.
So that's just my only 2 cents about my metaphor and how much I hate dealing with lawyers and email.
Yeah, I think Marnie said it all. The effective date is of the bylaw, not the regulations. And the regulations are the bylaw, they just go into more detail. So that was a valiant effort, but and then I guess I am concerned about light trespass because you are abutting residential, and the 2005 bylaw also prohibited light trespass. So yeah, we just out of compliance there too.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, so work with Marty, she'll swear you away.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Did you submit a specification for the lights that are in there previously?
I think we did a while ago.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that doesn't, would that say if you can replace the bulb or not?
No, it just had the,
Not clear.
it had like all the tables with all the info, so.
It's all the bug and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
it doesn't give you much clarity on what it
On
can
the
actually do.
specifics.
And I think the best way is to contact the manufacturer, explain the situation and have them sort of recommend something
Yeah,
to how it can be dealt with. I think that's the best route.
all right,
thanks.
perfect. So continue till the June 1st.
So I make a motion to continue the public hearing for 154 Turnpike Road modification and major site plan approval to June 1st, 2026 at 7 p.m.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Oh, is there any public comment? This is a hearing. Forgot about that.
You forget about the fast. How can you forget about the fast?
The vast crowd.
I'm sure though.
Sorry. And no hands on the vast attendees on Zoom either. Okay, sorry. So I have a motion and a second. That was further discussion. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brewster, yes.
Bellniak, yes.
Great, thank
Very
you.
much.
Have my number. Dustin, do you have my number?
No,
Still
I
have my
don't.
number?
You have her number?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'll reach out to you this week.
Yeah, totally. I know. It's honestly like three-way a call in if you get them on.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll give you a call
Serious
this week.
about it.
Okay.
Solve this quick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you
Good night.
very much.
Can we move it up?
Oh, yeah.
Ruby? Yeah.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, we're gonna move up 96 Mount Vickery.
We know you guys are thrilled to sit here with us, but you know.
You add to the vast audience.
Yeah, best audience.
We still had to fucking leave.
We're on Zoom, but we figured I'd come in for your last meeting.
Oh, so I don't see Peter online. Was he gonna Zoom? Do you need him for anything?
I think he's sick, but I don't.
Oh,
Well, he
Uh,
said he was gonna zoom in, but he's expecting it a little later, but I talked to
Oh.
him and
okay.
I can
I
maybe
think,
fill in.
I think it's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward.
It is.
Yeah.
So do you want to pick
Yeah,
us
just
off?
a quick, recap. So 96 Mount Vickery is Ruby Estates. It's a subdivision permitted several years ago. Currently under construction with Niche Engineering providing construction services, visiting the site. So Mike Arlini submitted as-built. They've gone to review Niche. We've gotten a review letter back from Niche. And you guys then, with Peter Bean, responded to those comments. This comes out of a request for lot release. Lot releases for roads that are intended to become public require interim as-built so that we can ensure the infrastructures in place for when the lots get sold to people that of safety services, et cetera. So Niche Engineering also provided an initial bond review. And came up with an estimated amount with a 20% contingency and inflation rate added in. And that bond amount, and that information was distributed to the planning board members for review for this evening. And let me just. Probably maybe you can put the bond up there. The niche review with backup. So the bond, grand total was $324,140.81. So there was a covenant when you have a subdivision, and in the covenant, it states you want to release the lots, the planning boards do that. But they need security for that, remaining work, so that in case anything ever happens, they could, cover the costs, because the people will be living there already and then stuff. I don't anticipate that. There's the history of gardening, so, Mike's here tonight to, ask the planning board to accept that, bond amount. So that he can move forward to get a performance bond and also prepare a surety agreement for town council review. That comes along with that. And if, the current as-built are back with niche for a follow-up review, and hopefully we get that back pretty quickly, and I think they will. Any last changes can be made, but you'd be hopefully ready if we can get town council to review the surety agreement bond, by the next meeting, June 1st. And the goal is to get the lots released. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think that wraps it up pretty much, so.
Okay, very good. Ms. Williams.
I have no questions. I think it was pretty straightforward. The niche overview was very clear, and then the table with the grand total. So I had no questions.
Ms. Garrett,
I'm good with it also. I don't have any questions for you tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Brascio,
That was pretty complete. No questions.
Mr. Delmia.
No questions.
Right, it's my last meeting, so I'm not letting you off that. I just, so you received an email from Karina regarding a couple of things that I wanted to ask about, the open space markers.
Correct.
Those.
When I
guidance
forwarded,
all-
when I forwarded you the copy of the niche review, the email had a list of some additional things to be aware of and to address.
That's the stuff that Peter sent back to you and updated.
Um,
Correct.
So he,
April 23rd. Attached is niche engineering as-built review and bond estimate. Please address the comments and provide revised interim as-built. Also, we will need surety agreement for town council. In addition, niche comments, please note and address in your response the following items as referenced in the subdivision conditions, in the approval of the subdivision. In the decision, there's conditions, and I pointed out some of these conditions, including the understanding that DPW was requiring that the stop sign and the street sign may be put in prior to release of lots.
I think that's done.
Yeah, but then there were the 4 conditions. You have a copy of that email? I have it here if you want to look at it.
I don't.
You just have to give it back to me. That references the conditions in the decision.
Okay, so which ones are you specifically?
4 and 7, the first 2 in the email. The open space markers and the vegetative screening around house number 1 and 3.
Right, but I don't think that's required before the lease, correct?
I think I expected you to respond to it, like, what's the status? Are you aware of it? You plan to put it in?
Oh, yeah,
You know, so in the response, when you do your follow-up,
okay.
you should just address these, so the planning board knows the.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
And I think the open space markers might be important, because if you start selling the lots and the residents don't know where their line of restriction is, that's been a real problem in the past, because even though they're, it's supposed to be in the deed, but new homeowners I mean, whatever. They're not always fully aware, and the markers help them know that they can't mow or put yard debris there. I have you scheduled for 96 monthlies on the open space inspection monitoring list for this coming year, but within the next 2 months.
Okay.
So Joe Rozelle from Lucas Environmental will be out there just now, and I'll give you a letter ahead of time anyway, but he's just gonna do a report on what he sees.
Okay.
As a baseline. But I think that's one of the reasons that, the open space is important to mark that now. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's what your plan is for. So the vegetative screening around house 1 and 3. I assume that will be done before those lots are sold.
Yeah, I'd have to do it before they're sold. So I wouldn't have access otherwise, so.
Right.
And I think
But so when was the plan to put in the open space mark?
The open space markers. I probably would do it as they're sold. I don't have this in front of me, sorry. But I would think I would have to do it as they're sold.
Yeah. I have to tell you your business, but if you got a surveyor out there to do it, wasn't it more cost effective than just leave a line with the markers, whatever's required in the decision? You're gonna have them come out each time. So, I don't know, just.
Right now, there's currently, there's a erosion control barrier that's up now. So I don't have any, there's no trees down or anything, so we usually do them because we have to do as-builts as we finish houses anyway, so usually this work gets done as I work on each lot. Wasn't planning on doing them all at once, that's what you're asking.
Well, I've been out there and I haven't been out there, so I'm just trying to get a clear picture. So where the markers go, you're saying hasn't been cleared, you haven't cleared to that point, or you haven't improved anything? How do you know the contractor, is the erosion control barrier at that
The
line?
erosion control barrier is where the erosion control barrier is on the plan.
Right, but where does that align itself with the open space? Is that forward of the open space, so the contractor's not working into the open space?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
how do we know the open space is not going to be impacted during construction?
Because it's on the plan, the erosion control barrier is
Closer to the
before
road.
Oh,
the
okay.
open space.
Okay,
So the open space is behind the erosion control
Yeah.
barrier.
okay.
So that's half its purpose is to tell you when to stop.
Oh, all right.
You see it every day.
Yes.
So it just helps the planning board to know.
All right. I used to be on open space. I don't know if you know that. It's still near and dear to my heart. Well, I don't know. I don't know if we need to mention that. That's not something that would be bothered.
Well, the open space markers, no, they're required to do it.
Okay, so I won't worry about it.
It's in the decision.
Yeah, it is.
Required.
So do I just do a bond for niche?
Yeah, except the bond for niches, bond review data sections. And that would be,
Yeah. Okay. So I make a motion to accept the bond estimate as submitted on April 22nd, 2026 by Niche Engineering for a total of $324,140.81 for 96 Mount Victory Road, previous date 7.
Second, every motion in a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Rafter, yes.
Delmiak, yes.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mimi, for your years of service.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very sweet.
Nice to see you.
Good seeing you.
10 years, Forest Chair.
I know he doesn't.
Does he carry it? It's been a while.
Yeah.
Take a 5-minute break.
Sure.
And,
Man's.
Yeah,
He says he has coffee with you on the weekends.
Yeah, recess. Do we have to motion? We need to.
I think we should just take a motion.
Okay, I made a motion to take the 5-minute break.
That's not, it's.
Fundamental second, any further
Alright,
discussion?
thank you.
Seeing none, all in favor of the throw.
Julian, yes?
Mary Ann.
Brasher, yes.
Tell me it.
We're back. And the next item on the agenda is a public hearing, native landscape regulations for site plan review.
Yes, I should read that. I'll let me know. I'll do that quick. All right, this legal notice of public hearing pursuant to Town Code Section 43-2, the Southborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, May 11th, 2026 at 7:05 PM at the Public Safety Building Training Room, Southborough Police Fire Building, 32 Corderville Road, and via Zoom with regard to the proposed native landscape regulations for site plan review. The purpose of these regulations is to preserve and protect the community's ecological and environmental resources by requiring native vegetation in all landscape plans as part of site plan review. These regulations align with our general bylaw, chapter 153, zoning code, chapters 174-13 and 174-13.3, the master plan, the hazard mitigation plan, the street tree guidelines, and the downtown district guidelines. Those who wish to watch or participate remotely may do so by accessing the meeting link at www.southboroughma.gov/674/virtual-meetings. And we have a draft that was distributed. Planning board members, it's also in the meeting packet on the agenda site.
So this was initially discussed at our last meeting, and I suggested that we, instead of just having a overall policy, that we have regulations for site plans, which can promulgate per 174-10D2 allows us to create regulations. So my thought was that we could have the overarching just policy and then these regulations specific to site plan. Did you want to add anything or?
Well, this is just on the native plants and the policy included invasive. There is going to be a deeper discussion after we go through the regulations.
Excuse me, Freddie, can you identify yourself?
Oh, Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. And we were charged by the master plan to work and collaborate with the planning board and conservation, but we're starting with the planning board to create these policy for native plants. And we came up with our recommendations, gave them to the planning board a while back, and then Marnie went through them with us and was of great help in what we finalized. The Open Space Commission took them back, looked at them again, made some revisions, and then we discussed them at the last meeting. I wanted to say one thing before we start, me just on a side, that I don't know that it's clear what expertise I have in this because of a comment that was made that you shouldn't be accepting things based on an enthusiastic comments from a citizen or a resident. So I just want to say, and I wanted to print out a resume of all the trainings, organizations I've worked with over the last 26 years with all of the top people working on both native plants and invasive species with major projects, including 26 acres at Breakneck Hill that were declared the worst bittersweet infestation in Metro West. And that has been ongoing. Multiple other invasive species projects, working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Mass Audubon, New England Wildflower Society, Native Plant Trust, which used to be New England Wildflower Society, if I already repeated that, and some of the top experts in the field in this state, and also nationally at conferences and workshops. So this isn't just a feel good. I'm enthusiastic about this. I'm enthusiastic that you are, coming to this level of making it official. But this is all based on sound science, and I will be sending in a resume of all the different organizations and projects I've worked on over the years with federal government grants, state grants, local grants, as well as town monies. So I just wanted to say that this is not, not just, I didn't read an article and then come up with this with my Open Space Commission. I have been shoveling the ground, hardworking for over 26 years now. And I think our efforts are proof that we know what we're doing and we know where these recommendations come from, both with the native plants where we've increased biodiversity at Breakneck Hill and with the invasive plants. So I just wanted to say that. And then the only question I had on the regulations was to clear it up final. I know you've said it, I think, but I just want to be sure. You can only make regulations for the site plan and not for other permits. Or is that the only applicable permit for native plants requirements?
So site plan is the major thing that we do. There, you can do regulations for special permits. Trying to think of, that's the only other thing.
What the special permit?
Well,
Downtown, aren't those special permits
I
under the
think
planning board?
it's already in the bylaw. But that requires a site plan also, anyway. So I don't think there's a special permit that does not require a site.
Okay, just to keep that in mind, to look into that and add it in the future.
Speak to that side of the table.
Oh, no, we're still talking to you while you're here, Mimi.
So the, just to double check that, because I know there used to be special permits for, maybe that's not under the planning board, for the highway Business Village.
Yeah, Business Village, yep.
And are
Requires a
those-
site plan.
They're all site plans. I thought that was size based, not parcel based.
Site plan.
There's not a special permit that we issued and it's not.
Okay.
Required.
Well, so I'm not on the planning board, so I didn't know that, but I just, originally we were talking about any permit that you issue. And here it's just site plan. So what, and low impact development is always a site plan project.
Because you're disturbing more than an acre.
Yeah.
Triggers.
And live in the bylaw requires.
Right. I knew that. I was on that committee. What was that? I said a few years ago on something, but was that 15, 20 years ago? So, I mean, this has been around for a long time.
Thank you.
Ms. Lillian. No, I mean, there's some like slight, like double periods and stuff that I saw in the actual draft, but otherwise I had no questions. I thought it was really straightforward, and I think the effort, was to kind of put it in lay person like vernacular so that they could understand it. And so when you distribute it to people doing major site plan, they could appreciate that. So the fact is that I'm the level bar there, so I could read it and understand it. And I think that our developers that are, or anybody proposing major site plan, I think it's easy to understand. And then we also now have something to help promulgate the rules and regulations. So I think it looks great.
And you have.
Well, you guys, it
Well, I know, but you did.
was a good collaboration.
Mr. Maria.
Yeah, I think it looks good too. I thought we were, one comment is I thought we were going to put something in there about trees, and I don't want to water the thing down, but a tree is a plant, but I thought we were going to maybe make reference and
So I changed plant to vegetation, which encompasses trees, plants and shrubs.
okay. Okay, and then just on the first line, it's the purpose of these, and I think it's supposed to be this regulation. It says the purpose of these, the very first sentence.
Oh,
and
it
I think
is,
it's
yeah.
supposed something missing in there.
Yeah,
There's a couple little things like that. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
There is a slightly newer version where I got rid of the double period and I put that adopted in there, and there is still a quote on the last page too, like a floating quote in the sentence. I'll point it out.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to, if I may, respond. Last time Deb had mentioned the keystone species of trees, and I did some digging into that. I mean, I already know, but I was looking for collaboration between what's on Dr. Robert G. Gear's list, which he has numerous keystone species. And if you're looking for trees and shrubs, we could highlight those out as a side list if planning board so wanted. But we're not. So keystone species came from Doug Tallamy's work on which plants provide as a host for the most butterflies and moths to create caterpillars to feed the birds, which is important. The big ones are on Dr. G. Gear's plant list. We are also very concerned on not missing the ones that might only be a host plant for, say, 3 species or 20 species that are species heading towards extinction. Just like you all have heard, milkweed for monarchs. Milkweed is not on a keystone list because it basically supports monarch butterflies and the milkweed bug and a couple of other insects, and not much. But without it, you lose the monarchs. So we want to be sure we have that balance. But I went through and I double checked that the majority of the shrubs on Dr. G. Gear's list and the trees, like he's got oak, he's got willow, he's got cherry, plum, blackberry, those are all high numbers on the keystone list. So I can pull those out for you if you wanted a side list that you prefer those ones in the street plantings, or
I guess what I was thinking of was, if this is going to be our rules and regulations, we're gonna put this in as a condition. Would this be something we'd look for if we were doing tree replacements? So let's say trees removed, and can we be assured that our recommendation, which of course just a recommendation to the tree warden, is that a native tree species is planted. Can we take it that far?
Well, these are site plan regulations.
Well, that's one of the questions Freddie just asked. Is this only for site plan?
Well,
Or
this
is
was,
So this
Sorry.
hearing right now is site
Only
plan
site plan.
regulation.
can I, in 2019, we already reviewed the street tree listing and have almost all native straight species. There's a couple of cultivars of native trees because elm, which, there's no straight species left, and we wanted to allow that to be used if cultivars, which, to have the elm still represented, as well as for in special concerns of like narrow polymer trees, we allowed a cultivar. So that list does not translate into this because this is not your street tree list.
Right.
So I think they are already going to be, companions of each other, but a little bit different.
But the policy adopted by the select board and tree board
Right.
refers to the street tree guidelines.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And this for site plan then doesn't refer to, although it does, I think it does refer to the street tree list, or no? So I mean, shouldn't we refer to something for trees?
It does say here, street tree guidelines and the downtown district guide. Oh, no, so that's just word of.
Street tree
Yeah, these
guidelines,
are
it
all-
does. Right, that's just, it's referenced in, under purpose, the regs, online with general laws.
This,
And street blah blah and street
there it
tree
is.
guidelines
Yep.
and the down, okay, so.
Well, I don't want it to be contradictory in any area because there are those cultivars for street trees, which would not meet the guidelines of this regulation. So our street trees in site plan, when you do a subdivision that has a street in it, then you have to have street trees, right?
or on every site plan requires some landscaping.
I understand that.
Parking requires trees.
And that would fit into here and not be street trees in a parking.
Well, there could be street trees in a parking lot.
If there's no street there, it wouldn't be requiring street trees.
Right.
So maybe we have a line that says in a site plan review where there is a street, then the street tree list may be used. I'm just thinking of those few cultivars. You don't want to necessarily try to go back and take them out of the street trees. And then you would be breaking this rule on any street in a site plan if you allowed a cultivar. Unless you had some explanation of why that was separate.
Was the salt tolerant a cultivar?
What?
In the street tree guidance, was the salt tolerant tree a cultivar?
I know there was elm and I know there was this,
Skinny thing, I think that
and
was it.
there might have been one that was,
We kept one for DPW because they needed some salt tolerance.
Well, I think most of them are also tall.
They are.
Yeah.
somebody
This is
might have
street
liked a
trees.
certain tree and we gave on it. I'm just trying to remember. It was 2019. It was a while ago. So we'd have to go through it to see. And maybe you add that, but you don't want to add those cultivars to the site plan plantings, except for if it's a street tree. So maybe a line that says, except for when it's a street tree, which may use cultivars that are on that street tree list.
Gets too
I know,
complicated.
I know, so part of me says we're doing this now, we should do it completely, and another part says just stick to the script and start with something and then add trees later, but I mean, what about parking lots?
This fits for parking lots. You have trees that are native for parking lots. We don't design the landscape for a project. When I say we, I mean, I've never seen the planning board tell a project proponent that you have to use this type of planting. This gives them a very wide breadth of trees to choose from. And if they have a landscape architect or whoever designs their layout, they can find many trees.
Can I make a suggestion? We add in definitions, what is native vegetation? It equals trees, shrubs, so that trees, the word trees is included.
Oh, so just,
So just add in, you know how we've defined what a cultivar is, we've defined in definitions.
consists of,
Oh, we do have native vegetation.
we do,
But
but
we
would you
don't
like
have
it?
trees.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think
native vegetation consists of what? Plant, tree, and shrub.
yeah, something
Yes,
like
ground
yeah,
covers.
plant, tree,
And shrubs.
and shrub, and ground cover species.
Well, ground covers it, right?
Okay.
Well, so is a tree. I'm just
Yeah.
a little confused here
I just would
because
like, I mean, we're
No.
a Tree City USA, so I'd like to, I do, control like if we're a fine tree and it's just not, it's just, it appears like it's more about plants, and I think that was the.
So at the
That goes to make
the
it-
last time we discussed, we were looking for an inclusive word,
Yeah.
because plant people think of as flowers.
so
So
I'll just say in my world, you
vegetation
don't.
is-
We think trees and shrubs and flowers.
Yeah, but
So
you've been in that world for 20.
I'm just saying that's why I'm having a hard time like.
I like the definition just because of the.
Yeah, so just
add
add
trees.
tree and shrub.
We're just
Yeah.
adding, under native vegetation consists of plant, comma, tree, comma,
How
shrub.
about all
and
plants
shrub
including,
species.
how about this? All plants including trees and shrubs. Because if you say plants and then trees, it's like, then which plants are you leaving out?
That's fine.
Or
All plants
consists of all
All
plant
plants,
species,
comma,
including trees
and
and shrubs.
shrubs. Yeah. Does that work for you, Deb?
Okay, good, thank you.
With capturing that, yes.
Lawyers would be happy if you made it including but not limited to.
With a little ergo or therefore.
Well, no,
inserted,
seriously, but not limited to.
But not limited to.
But sometimes sometimes if you don't put that in,
Karina, did you
sometimes it's
record
read
that?
as including only.
Oh, that,
You've got that.
yes.
Yep, including
All
trees.
trees, not
Okay.
limited
All
to.
plants,
I
yes.
actually don't think
All
it's that
plants,
idea.
including
But not
trees,
limited
and
to.
shrubs,
Yeah.
species.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure we have it. That's all.
I actually agree with Tim, including all but not limited to.
There could be some good moss,
Just
for
say,
soft landing.
Including all plant species.
including but not limited to trees and shrubs.
Consists of all, but not limited. Consists of all. But.
And can someone go through and find a little double periods and stuff?
Yeah,
I did, you had an older
Right.
version. The next
Karina
one,
is very good at that.
except
I was-
floating quilt.
This final edit was done on my phone because I poured the water on my laptop. And I'm still trying to get it back to working the one I got, so.
Can't dump it into a big vat of rice, huh? with the
No, that
laptop.
didn't work.
I got nothing. Anything? You've got nothing? Okay. Mr. Billnia?
I don't have anything in relation to specific references to trees, plants, but not limited to. or anything. More just about the clarity of the language. And I think parts of it are a little bit loose and parts of it might be somewhat ambiguous. So we talked about the 100% coverage, I think, in the one of the earlier points, which means if we don't have 100% coverage, does that mean, like, for example, are we laying down, would this be laying down the law and saying if you submit anything, developer, that does not have 100.00% native, don't even come talk to us? Like, is that how enforceable this is going to be?
The intention is you don't come in with 99 native trees and one non-native tree if you have 100 trees. But also we recognize that when you do a site plan,
Mhm.
only a certain amount of landscaping is required. It's not always for the whole site. And I don't even want to say this, there's the issue of lawns, which you can use native grasses, but most aren't. And we never intended that people can't have some lawn. So wherever soil is disturbed, we want native plants, correct? For the site plan? Landscaping
That's the
impacts all,
exception. And that's always been, well, since I've been on the board, is, and with any site plan, the planning board has the right to, you know, loosen certain things that we, you know, we've done before. We were just talking about the bituminous concrete, which we accepted gravel.
Okay.
But usually it's, unless there's a really good reason, it's that. So I don't think anything changes in the way the board permits things. This is the expectation. If
Mhm.
there's some extenuating circumstance, then you deal with it then.
Okay,
So it's waivable? Are these items waivable? If for good cause, for good reason, if the
I don't
planning
know how
board
you
chose
understand
to?
it. I can't even.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've asked if it was, if the planning board has right to waive, like some sections you can't in the code. Would this be one that
So
waive? could be
landscaping you
requested?
can.
Yes.
when we talk about the pesticides, it says, the neonicotinoids, I don't know if I said that right, are prohibited at any growing stage. I'm just wondering, is that hard to track the provenance and custody? So like the grower, wholesaler, distributor, do we require a plant tag or a letter, or I don't know if we want to get to that level.
well, Karina has been doing that because you've already been requiring it. So, Karina, what happened when you, I believe Ken's was one,
Yes,
They-
and St. Mark's School
and they,
dorm project for
and,
the non-nicotinoids.
yeah, and or systemic,
Yeah, it's not in, it's in those particular ones because we brought that up at the time. But it wasn't, it's not standard in all
right?
site plan conditions.
But when you had to make that requirement, because you have two examples, they were able to supply the information.
The nursery that sold the plant gave the certification letter, gave the statement.
So a good nursery can track it. So a lot of times, you know, you get a nursery that doesn't use neonics or systemic pesticides, but they will buy a plant somewhere else and finish it off. They can track from who they buy it from and that didn't use it because the problem is the pesticide comes with the plant. And then it will grow as the plant gets older,
Mhm.
grows up, it is full of it. And it stays in the plant and it gets in the soil. And when you plant it, it spreads to the soil and gets.
I don't disagree with the intent.
Right, I'm just saying that it's becoming more and more commonplace, and I'm sorry I went on that. That people are asking all the time. And as people ask more, there's more documentation. So it's not impossible to get.
So is it incumbent upon the developer to provide that at the outset, or only if we ask?
You want to have them before they buy trees. Ask their supplier, are you neonic free? And if it's not, find another supplier or another tree. And you don't want to have them buy them and.
Again, I
Yes, they
understand the
are.
intent. Are we stating that this I don't know.
It says submitted, proof submitted, with the as-built.
Okay, 'cause I thought I heard you say a moment ago that it happened with St. Mark's or Ken's. They provided it when we asked. I don't know if they provided that.
It was a
Yes.
condition in the decision to provide neonicotinoid certification documentation in the decision. So that's before they actually construct it.
Okay,
They're still gonna go build everything, so they have the opportunity to go buy everything in compliance.
okay.
And it kind of lets you know that you don't want to be buying the wrong thing if you're going to have to prove that it, you know, it's an upfront.
Okay, and the last one is about like the mulch and how we strongly prefer it not to be dyed. Strongly preferred isn't really enforceable, so I don't know. I'm not advocating we say absolutely can't because I think that would probably be too far of overreach. But let's say, for example, a developer comes in and does everything that you're supposed to, but they use a dyed mulch. and we comment, well, we prefer if you didn't, and they say, too bad, I did anyway. It's not a requirement. Like, is that, like, would that be a sticking point for us or not? Again, I'm not saying we should put it in there as a requirement, I'm just saying, these are some of the examples where where it's a little bit loose.
Any subjectiveness is tricky.
Mhm.
It's always better to be absolute and then waive it.
As long as we're as a board are okay with that, then that's cool.
You could say no dyed mulch, just leave it at that, and then if they want to come in and dye it, then it's like anything else. Non-dyed mulch is available.
I mean, it's up to you guys if you want to prohibit it, but I mean, site plan is usually a negotiation and usually little things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we.
Okay.
So then we give back cooperation in return.
Okay, yeah, that was it. Those were just my flags about some of it seemed a little bit ambiguous and stuff like that, but if we're as a board are okay with using that flex in terms of final, then it's fine.
And I just said, like, as you say that though, Alan, I think the point is as the board turns, the whim of the board could also change, right? So I think if it isn't hard and fast in the rules and regulations, it's subject to interpretation. So I do think it's kind of very on point comments.
So are you suggesting that we make it,
I think you make a decision versus, we recommend or we prefer, because if these are rules and regulations, let's just say no dyed mulch.
Yeah.
If it's bad for the environment and we're really trying to do better, let's say it's not a good idea.
and then if you have a proponent who says, I can't get undyed mulch, then you can deal with that at the time.
Or just put in explicitly if there are things that are subject for board review or discussion, it'd be good. I could just see someone coming in 2 years from now, going through site plan review. We flex on a certain part, someone comes in a year later, doing the complete opposite of what that one thing was, and so you just set precedent a year ago, right? And so if the intent is we have that flex, that's great. Just seems like in certain parts we're being absolute, in certain parts we're not. I just want to be clear that. Just want to call it.
My recommendation would be absolute and then waive it if you need to.
So dyed mulch,
It's not allowed.
So there's a statement that says stones are
I
not
put it in
allowed, so
there,
we
so.
maybe add it, the stones and gravel shall be prohibited as mulch, so maybe we can adjust
think
that
that's
and
too
put.
far, but
Let's talk about it. So the no dyed is too far, did you say?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know enough about dyed mulch.
I'm not a dyed mulch expert either.
It honestly, like, I just don't know but environmentally.
Well, they dye it with chemicals that can leach into the soil. I haven't done a deep study into all of the different ones and which ones are okay and which ones aren't okay by brand or by color or by. We all can think of that awful orange. That was I don't know if they're still using it anywhere,
I would err on the side of no chemicals.
but you have. I would, instead of not having it, I'm hearing from Alan that you think saying no dyed is too strong. So I'd rather leave the ambiguous preferred than to take it out altogether. It's showing your preference, and then you'll have to have those conversations.
Yep, I agree with that approach.
Right. And that is probably why we put it there in the first place, because you didn't want to come in with too big a hammer, like.
Yes. But this is helpful for me to understand. So
Yeah, no, good comments.
But the stones and gravel shall stay as bleach, right?
There's no way they're natural. I don't know how they are mulch for plants.
So anyone in the crowd, any questions or comments? So, and we have 0 attendees and 0
we lost everything.
answers.
I do have a question about on pesticides, so. We're talking about plants that get treated in some way. As they're growing before they get to the nursery purchased and then installed. Do we want to comment at all about like treatment of, you know, where I'm going with this
I think
glyphosate?
you did last time.
Did I go glyphosate last time?
Phosphate, like
Glyphosate?
Brad's a, that's
the
that's an
systemic-
herbicide.
Right.
Is that a,
No, it's a pesticide.
Well, they're all pesticides.
Right.
It's not a systemic pesticide. The issue with systemic is it doesn't stop. It stays in the plant and continues killing any, you have flowers or, you know, bees and butterflies land on them and then eat it and then die.
Okay.
Glyphosate has like a 3-day life, something like that. It, you know, it's not getting in the soil and infecting other plants. And I don't think, what I thought you were talking about too, is that after they're planted, you don't have say over how people manage their land. So no, glyphosate would not be used on a plant that is then planted because it would have killed the plant.
Right.
So that's only after the fact as far as weed control or invasive control. And we don't have, I wouldn't think you would have any oversight over what someone does after they build their property and how they manage their land.
FYI, Bill Cundiff in conversation to you did indicate that, I believe he said he was against glyphosate on any of the.
speak louder?
Oh, I think Bill Cundiff relayed to me that he was not, in favor of glyphosate on any of the town road projects when that came.
Well,
up.
that's a problem because you can't get rid of the invasives without it. So there you
Yeah,
go.
so that might be, I'm just bringing it up so you know
So-
that there was concern with the glyphosate. from his
I know there's a
point.
lot of concern. It's a hot topic. As someone who's been working on invasive projects for over 26 years, we can't do the work without it. And in many cases, you know, and I always say a prayer that in the future they know that we thought we were doing the right thing because there's always questions, but the other methods of treating it are often more ecologically damaging than if you just use the glyphosate. So
Yeah,
in different ways, certainly. But
I hear you. It's very controversial and some states have banned it. So, and Massachusetts had that big kind of commission looking at it over different phases because of the detrimental effects of it. But I agree with you. I don't think we can, I mean, good that Bill doesn't like to use it on town property, but I don't think we can go telling, you know, developers they can't use it if it's commercially available. It is commercially available. I think it's the Roundup Pro, not just regular Roundup, but okay. I'm okay with it. It's not staying in the plant. That's fine.
I'll set.
Yeah.
Do we want to vote to accept this policy?
I make a motion to accept the native landscape regulations for site plan review as discussed and amended during the meeting.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Leanne, yes.
Demaria, yes.
Pressure, yes.
Belniak, yes.
Oh, this should be. Like, this is an old thing.
Oh, do we need to close the public hearing?
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
I make a motion, no, I should have done it. I even made a note to close the public hearing before I vote. I make a motion to close the public hearing for the native landscape regulations for site plan review.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Leanne, yes.
Demaria, yes.
Pressure, yes.
I'm sorry,
Belniak,
what
yes.
was
Oh, just closing the hearing.
Oh.
I should have done that first.
It doesn't really matter. One way, yes. All right,
As long as we do it.
now on to the next. Native. Oh, so then the next was just whether to have a overarching policy of native landscape, which would just be the same thing, but would be a
Yeah, this
policy
confusing me.
instead of regulation.
These two things side by side.
Hmm?
I say these two things side by side on the agenda confuse me. Because one of the documents is the same, right?
Yeah, I agree.
If you're looking at one of the documents, it might be a little bit different because we edited the regulations and didn't go back in and edit policy.
Oh,
We just use the regulations as the policy.
well, it was a policy first. Right.
It was a policy,
And it
then we
was-
made edits to the policy
Into regulations.
into the regulations because there were further discussions, and I didn't realize you would still be considering a policy if you had a regulation. And the other thing about the policy is it includes the invasive language.
Well, I split that out separate.
Yeah, I, that was one of the things I had asked for.
And so if somebody else had taken the regulation and made it the policy, then what I'm saying is
So that.
irrelevant, but I didn't do that. That's what I'm saying.
Well, because we talked about doing both, I don't know if it's necessary because anything that has what comes before us are special permits
Right.
and site
Site
plans,
plans.
and there's no special permit that doesn't require a site plan,
Right.
so I'm not sure if that,
Okay.
having that.
Agreed.
is-
Agree.
is good.
Yep.
Then the next thing would be the invasive species, which so that was introduced at the last meeting because I sprung it upon Freddie when Lucas was here discussing the open space. So this is just something for further discussion and consideration. I just didn't want us to forget about it. I don't think we necessarily need to make a decision on it tonight unless
Can I
there's
say a couple things about it?
other thoughts about it. Sure.
So as far as the Open Space Preservation Commission is review, we reviewed the language in the policy that you had. And we reviewed our amendment and put that into the policy, which was based on our amendment for the road creation. I mean, the road, $25 million bond on the road, warrant article. And I think you may want to have more discussion about it. I wanted to share something that happened after the last meeting. And I'll send this to you later, because I'm still without my computer working. It's one thing. I'd mentioned how in England, you have to have a certificate to sell your home. And that, maybe Knotweed has been there longer and it created more destruction. And then that was on a Monday. Hope I have this. It was on a Monday. And I'm sorry, I don't have it right now. Anyhow, I'll just briefly go over that. I have been trying to we work with Chris Politan, who's the top invasive guy in the Commonwealth, working for the trustees, Nature Conservancy, Audubon. We're lucky that he still comes to Southborough because we've been working with him for 20 years, so he still comes back. But I'm trying to say his most small jobs doesn't show up. And he wasn't available. I was trying to hire him we have a big invasion of the street pear trees. I always call it the wrong one, Bradford or Bartlett. Gallery. We have over 7 acres of an infestation at Breakneck Hill now, and you're seeing them everywhere. And this was what we used as street trees, not that all of our cul-de-sacs. If you drive around, you see all the side roads, all those pretty white trees. And we have hundreds, if not 1,000 or more, that we have to deal with at Breakneck Hill. So I was trying to get him, when can we get it done before the larger ones are now going to seed and are going to create 1,000 more plants. So we're trying to, was trying to get him, and he said he couldn't because he was in mitigation. And I was thinking he couldn't talk to me. He was in mitigation. I was like, oh, what's he getting sued, right? I mean, that's what you think. You didn't do a job right. Why is he in mitigation? The day after the planning board meeting, he said he was in mitigation because he has a side gig now. He's like the state expert for lawsuits. And he pointed me to this company. He's their expert, a law firm. 70% of their work is dealing with knotweed cases. 3 years ago, a family homeowners got a $300,000 judgment against their developer. And he had been in a case, and I can't say much because it's an NDA, but somebody, another family sued for.
What a good one if he's telling
I
you
know.
about it.
No, just that it happened, right? Not the details. But anyhow, that there have been over a dozen of these that he's, that are ongoing or have gone through, and it's they're all NDAs if they settle out of court because the developers don't want to risk going to court based on the 300K finding. And I will say that they're not de minimis amounts, the NDA. So this is not going away. It's going to be coming more. And as you drive around Southborough, you look at what's on the side of our roads for knotweed. And it's not the whole road. It will be the whole road when we're done with these road projects. And we have done a knotweed. I don't know if you recall, with the CPA, we had a grant at the golf course. Do you remember where that little stand was, that wooden stand next to Route 85 for the golf course? They took it down now, but you didn't used to be able to see that. It was a solid wall of knotweed. It's been over 4 years of treatment using glyphosate. And it's a 4 to 5 year treatment policy, or you can dig down like, I don't know how many hundreds of feet. The rhizomes go far and deep. And it's not a simple excavation. And I'm saying this because at the very least, what we did at Breakneck Hill for the farm dump, and this was before I heard about any of these cases. I haven't heard back from Weston how many thousands and how many years they're spending to clean up downtown when they undergrounded the wires and they brought in soil that then proceeded to grow a knotweed stand through downtown. And they're still ongoing working on it years later. So it's not something you don't want to pay attention to. And here's a question, where did the soil go from the Valvoline shop? That site was all Japanese knotweed. Did it go to somebody else's yard? Is it being stored somewhere? Is it in Southborough somewhere? And I don't know what level of control you have, but if somebody is also when they're trucking it and the trucks are driving, all the trucks that go in and out of that site, there's tons of knotweed, the size of your thumbnail is all it takes to start anew. The size of a truck. The treads, yes. That picks it up and then drives it all through town. That's one of the main ways it's spreading, in addition to roadside mowing and plowing. So it's just something to be aware of that. And I will just say this, in our recommendation to town meeting, one of the things was to have the soil certified that's brought in. Now, we did that at Breakneck Hill. And because they took out, I don't know how many tractor trailer loads of soil. And then they had to bring in truckloads of soil to fill up the big pit that was left. And it's we wanted to be sure they weren't bringing in soil filled with invasives and other weeds. So we asked, and Melissa was able to find this certification, and they said it was certified. And then they brought it in and smoothed it out. And we said, yeah, we're not planting because we don't leave it, and we wanted to manage it. We thought it might be better. We put a cover crop down so we could see what grew in and that we could manage it before we put down expensive native seeds. And there's been just nothing. So my experience is you required it. Somehow they found the soil, which was certified per the way we wrote it in the Warren article. And we have not had an outbreak of, and it's not just knotweed, it's all of them.
Can that area be contaminated from the knotweed that's on site?
What knotweed on site?
At Breakneck, you're talking about.
We don't have
Breakneck
knotweed
Hill.
on site. Oh, it's coming because it's on the roads coming in, but we don't have knotweed at Breakneck.
Oh, that was the pear.
That was the
Repair.
calorie.
And the Cal repair came from a cul-de-sac near you. And
Oh, because that's in all the subdivision, like previous subdivision.
it was a cheap tree. And they break and they thought they were sterile. But not if they cross-pollinated with another one that wasn't. And so that came in from a tree nearby. And what happens is they have little fruits that little birds eat, and then they bring it over your land. So. Anyhow,
So very important, but I think there's a lot
Yeah.
that we need to, or you need to think about in order to make this work on Insight.
I was thinking for the Open Space Commission, because we were also charged in the master plan dealing with all the invasives in town. It wasn't necessarily a policy for site plan like the plant was. That we may be having Chris come in and give a talk, and we could also have him maybe offer some recommendations on how to manage this if he's been exposed to any. I mean, this is all new, right?
But how do you enforce it? That's my biggest concern with this. I mean, we have enough trouble with enforcement now. Adding this other layer. And again, I think it's a continued discussion. I'm not saying like no to this. I think it's important, but I think there's a lot of unanswered questions as to how we could incorporate this and. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
So I think some of it's going to be at some point managed by the state. I just can't imagine that this is a big issue.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think if you have a site where they're bringing in soil, I don't think it's that hard to ask that it's any weed-free certified, because, and I think we can talk with Melissa how she got that done. And when I asked her, she put it in the bid, I guess, and it was after the fact, and they agreed to do it. And then I asked her, was it expensive? And she said no, or at least it didn't cost us, wasn't a change order or whatever. So I should find out more.
That's a simpler ask than some of the things that are in here. So, site clearing and as we get into some of these.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
if, like, would have to have and I don't know if it would be the engineering consultant or if we need to hire an arborist to go out and look and see
Yeah.
if the site had any invasives on it before they even started, or.
So some of these might be a sheet in hand, people. This is best. It could just be as simple as, this is the best practices to cover your butt, because these are the lawsuits that are being, when there's others that are going to be public. Like the $300,000 one was from 3 years ago. It was in the Boston Globe. I don't know how many, I wasn't aware of it till Chris mentioned that.
would it make sense for someone to work with Freddie, knowing, again, the potential, I think, for enforcement, but just coming up with a best practice policy versus this, which is more geared towards you have to do this and you have to do that. Again, that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, we didn't really, the Mass DOT guidelines are recommendations. So it wasn't
Right.
even like, when you have a recommendation, it's a recommendation. And
Yep.
the other ones that were made up for the site plan, I'm not sure were, was the best quick effort.
Yep, well.
No, and Freddie, don't get me wrong. I think it's important, but I'm just trying to think big picture how native plants to me was a lot easier to incorporate than this.
Well, we've been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, I think it's something that we need to continue having a conversation on. Absolutely. But like a long-term monitoring and maintenance plan shall be submitted to the town as part of the final site plan approval. I don't know how we enforce that. And then, so, again, I think it's a great ongoing conversation
And we didn't write all this, so.
No, and again, I think it's important, but I just don't know how.
It's gonna take.
Yeah.
More thought.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's
That's
almost like the packet. So you want to develop in Southborough. Here's what you need to know. And you kind of think, here's what you have to do if you have a site plan. Here's
Right.
all of the things about native planting. Here's an illumination bylaw. Like, it's all in there, but like, here are the things that we're real sticklers for.
Yeah,
And here's some best practices. Like,
exactly.
it's kind of like open space. Like, what you're trying to do is like, so you bought a property and you have open space and you didn't know,
Right.
right? Like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, let's maybe start the dialogue and just say like, yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, we want to be a partner with you, but here's what you need to know.
Yeah.
So I think we just maybe we keep the discussion open and we
Yeah.
just keep, you know, maybe every other, just kind of ting it up for like, so you want to develop in Southborough, kind of as a discussion, like what would the things be that we
Right.
want to start to educate and
Yeah.
bring awareness to?
And
Yeah.
find a way to make it positive for the project proponent.
Totally.
Not like, well, you're gonna have to do this, but like, hey, we're trying to help you save a lot of money, because look what happens to other developers when they have done business as usual and got what they got. And believe me, none of these developers or project proponents are willfully bringing in truckloads of contaminated soil to cause problems. It's the last thing. They're just not aware of how to.
do.
Yeah, right.
All right,
All right.
so very good.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the work you guys have done.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, subdivision rules and regulations update. I think that there's a meeting soon.
There's a meeting tomorrow.
Really? All right.
So, Karina, Bill and I found the magic time on our calendars that work. We're gonna continue the conversation that we previously had. I have a thought about, potential ways to sort of streamline, sort of the next set of steps. Meaning you're just gonna have to watch from afar about how and when we make progress. Perhaps we'll send you a letter, when you're across state lines when we make some work done, but no, kidding aside, we do have a meeting and there's some things to look at and hopefully we get it something shaped up soon enough to bring to the rest of the board to discuss. So,
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, planning board role and zoning, Ms. Borsman. And this came about because, was it our last meeting? Or the meeting before, the 13th? We had a discussion about a project that was issued a certificate of occupancy, yet they hadn't complied with their site plan. Or we had no evidence of that. There was no as-built, which is required. And fact that we had that discussion was very upsetting to the building department. And then sometime after that, they have land use meetings that are conservation, building, planning, in the admin, the CDA, and from the building department. And they were very upset with Karina because this board discussed that permit being issued. And kind of piled on her. So
Can we say what property we're talking about?
200.
Okay. Because there's numerous out of compliance properties.
Well, this particular one
Okay.
we have on our agenda.
Okay,
Recently permitted.
recently. Okay.
It's still in construction phase of a new permit.
Okay.
So then Marty and I went to talk to the building department to try and find out what was going on. One of the things that was said was you need to control your board, which was humorous because we're an elected body. So and out of that came, so we were discussing how we can kind of work together, and the big building commissioner was saying that it would be helpful to him in enforcement if he had like a paper trail, like from the planning board that this is out of compliance and we took these steps to try and bring them around, and they didn't, and then it goes to the building commissioner, and then this draft was sent. And my initial, so it says the Southborough zoning enforcement policy, but all it is planning board's responsibilities under that. Which I didn't really understand, so I emailed back, is this the entire policy? Because I want to see the whole policy and how we fit into what other steps are taking for enforcement, but I didn't know. So that's the conversation. Do you have anything, Marty, you want to add to that conversation?
No, I think the challenge that was made, they made us aware of is that they have just had a pile of things that they've been trying to catch up on, number one. So to be proactive is not their role right now. They are reactive and they have to kind of face things. So there's like a pile of stuff that had to be done from a compliance standpoint. And so, I think it was we were both in agreement that we're both frustrated with what happens and that we see out of compliance all the time, but we feel from our roles and obligations, we can't enforce.
Yeah.
And the building commissioner basically said he doesn't either. And he can't enforce because there's no, he just can't, proactively say you're out of compliance. He needs something from the planning board that says, documented on a planning board letterhead that says this site is out of compliance per site plan. The problem and challenge that faces, that puts a burden on us to be able to do that. Karina does that anyway. She's been pretty good at doing that. And I think it's more of the conversation was more of how do we help each other out, because we feel we can't enforce, and you're saying you can't enforce without us, but that's in our world enforcement when we start writing that stuff down. So that's where Katie said, we're putting these policy books together. Let me show you what I put together. And what I understood when she sent this is part of a bigger policy, but she only sent us the planning board role of it for enforcement. And to be very honest, I actually haven't had a chance to review what she sent over, or follow up with her to say, hey, can you send us the bigger perspective? But I think the conversation was, we all want to do better for the town. We don't want to be at odds with each other. We want to work together and be collaborative. She mentioned that conservation Melissa does a really good job at documenting things that, hey, developer, you said you do A, B, C, D, E. You haven't done any of those. Kind of where are you? To kind of begin that documentation process. And so she deferred to maybe, we should look at what Melissa does. And I have not looked at what Melissa does. And maybe that could be something that we could, implement. And is that something we could think about Colleen's role as having that step in? Hey, 3 years ago, we had these site plans. Can Colleen just go through those site plans and look at where as-built received? Are they in compliance? Or something where we as a planning board talk about, is there a process that we could actually initiate that then gives the building commissioner something that he can actually say, there's a reason why I'm following up on this, versus just a simple complaint that's filed by one of us, or we call or fill out a form like that. That's a little bit more documented. The other thing that they said is they immediately after 200 Turnpike, was that revoked? That was revoked, that occupancy permit for 200 Turnpike. So it was the building across from Red Barn, that little development back there. And so there was no site plan is part of a checklist in their system, but it's not doesn't come back up to say, is site plan as built, have they been received? Does not see that.
What system are you talking about?
Whatever
on
the
the
system
permitting
is
system?
on the permitting system. So they've now added that step before he issues a permit to say, have as built or something
A
about the
certificate
planning
of,
board.
will they just,
Certificate of.
so it just
occupancy.
requires planning board sign off, so then it
Okay.
would need Karina
Yeah,
to
to
sign
go
off.
back and review.
So we
she
had
can
that.
say.
We had that for a while where, when Chris Lund was here, he had put that into place. That when there was a project that had site plan, I was in the certificate of occupancy sign off piece of that. But that didn't transfer to the new people putting it in, because it's been a big turnaround there.
Yeah.
So that wasn't happening, so I had no idea that stuff was being issued until somebody asked something. I'd go on the building permit and I'd see new occupancy, and it's like, wait a second, because in there I have to write, I'm waiting for this and doing that. And then I also email saying to the app, to the developers, and it starts early because sometimes they don't record their decisions, they don't record them properly. Sometimes they don't provide a SWIP, or stormwater pollution prevention plan, and O&M that's signed. It's there, but it's not stamped or it's not signed. Certain conditions from very early on administrative all the way through as.
So have they added that step back in?
Yes.
But I think
They're working on it.
and I think the important, they said they did add it
Yeah.
back in. So the important piece is that's only for a certificate of occupancy and new
Right.
one. An existing one, they already have it. Right? So there's
Yeah.
no way to know if they're in compliance with site plan.
Got it.
So that's kind of like, we think the new part has been covered. But the retro, and all these things that are out of compliance has not.
They were
So-
once in compliance when they were first permitted, and then over the years, they've fallen out of compliance for various reasons. And
Like
those are
one
the ones-
54 Turnpike is a great example,
Yeah.
right? So they fell out of compliance and they came to us for the Chase Bank, and so that is how we knew they were out of compliance. So there is a challenge here. It's both documentation and process and flow, and like, how do we think about it? So that's my only add. I think I don't know how we solve it, but we have a list of things that we've approved that they've approved for occupancy that have subsequently changed what they've done from the plan that we approved that no one knows about until someone drives by and says, why are those lights on, 24/7 and they're really, really bright? And we start to inquire. Or Karina has some other request that comes in.
So you think there's a bigger policy that this was just a part of?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way she presented it to us, but she has a better
Probably.
response.
I have questions, but my questions may be answered by if there's a bigger policy.
Right,
So I think, we probably need
follow
to
up with her.
have that discussion. Yeah, because mine are about, this is planning board's enforcement code. Where's the enforcement piece for the building inspector when he's signing off on something or doing something? So again, if that's another policy and those steps are in place, it would be good to know. Because in looking at this is like a whole, I'm just concerned that we're doing the job that the building inspector should be doing. So I certainly would like to see the bigger policy as a whole to make sure that it's, if we have a small piece or a small role to play in this, that makes sense. If we know that everything else is being taken care of and we're not going to end up like policing everything. That's my concern.
So I can take that back because we sat down with them. I'm happy to follow up, and I think I did tell Mimi I'll follow up with Mimi, and then I just didn't.
If anyone
Oh,
wants any
yeah.
of them.
Send them
Yeah.
over, yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll follow up to find out what the bigger policy is, so we can see it in its entirety. She did say everything was, like it's a moving,
So that was Lara,
Obstacle.
but this was sent
oh,
by
that was,
Kate.
lab.
I mean, you can just tell by the fact that the
we
process
met with.
changed because the building inspector changed.
Right.
That they don't have a policy. I mean, either planning,
Yeah.
signs off on it or doesn't sign off on it. So I would imagine that they're creating a policy so that, it's
Well, I think,
consistent.
well, as Lisa said, I think it's important
I
to
do
see
too. I
that
think
whole
so,
thing,
yeah.
to see where we.
Yeah, what our
And-
role
yeah,
is.
and- And personally, although it makes no difference because, well, I'll be gone. But, but I think that if we can help, I
Yes.
understood Mark when he said it was helpful to have some paper trail when he's,
Yeah.
going to institute fines.
I just
or
feel
take
better
some
about
forms.
it from, us taking on a role of doing some of this, which Karina sounds like she's doing most of it anyway, but just knowing that, we're just a cog in the wheel.
Right. Well, this says, any planning board member who becomes aware of a potential zoning violation shall notify town planner. So that makes no sense. I think
It's a good
any
first
zoning,
step.
any zoning violation isn't under our purview. What if it's like a special permit under ZBA?
Right.
Like we have why would we notify town planner. So is there a step for ZBA in here somewhere?
So maybe that's just next step is, I'll reach out to Katie and just have a conversation, so we're a bit more informed.
Oh. Can Colleen speak?
So just as part of this, I think we're the only board, land use board, that isn't in the permitting system where we accept applications and stuff that way, which everybody can see. So we're kind of out of the loop, in my opinion.
Why is that, Colleen?
Yeah, why is
Why aren't we in there?
It's a big step to move planning. So conservation has a smaller window of legal requirement because they cover one thing and they have teeth to begin with the Clean Water Act. Zoning is very similar. They're kind of a bird's eye view. Their applications are relatively limited. It's either a variance or special permit. We have a multitude of applications that we cover. So the goal is eventually to transition to that. But it's a big step. We're still trying to get to OneDrive.
Well, I know, but these are things, you know, they're gonna bite us. Like, I think,
Yeah,
to be honest, I started coming up with a list of some of these things that we said that we would like to start. I think we would need to prioritize some of this stuff, because that might be the priority. I don't really know.
right now the priority, forgive me for saying this, but it's these problem applicants who, you know, who don't comply. They're extreme vacuum of time.
Yeah.
I can spend 2 days trying to address 200 Turnpike or Bagel Hall because it's just really high maintenance.
I think they have to figure out how to address that,
Yeah.
because you can't be doing that and get your job.
Agreed.
And it's a lot of information. And
So how did, like conservation and zoning get on to open up? Like, who-
because we
who
started with
transitioned them?
building, the IT department helps them.
Oh.
So they started with building and the other benefit they have is they're all right there together. So they're all using that all the time. So if there's a question, they're bouncing it off each other all the time. Because they're sitting right next to each other
They're
and they're
working
using it and
together.
they're updating it and, you know, in essence, they're all kind of working from on. And if we had that dynamic, we would probably be halfway there already. But we're kind of a little bit of an island. And planning's realm is, you know, that's where the T's get crossed and the I's get dotted. Right? It's down in the trench. The projects have to be constructible when they leave planning. The other departments, it's not so much. They're more peripheral aspects, you know, building covers the building, conservation covers the wetland. ZBA is the variance of the special, but here at planning, it's the whole plan, how it all works together, the details, the constructibility. So I think it's a goal to do that. Just need the opportunity and bandwidth to do it. IT is perfectly happy to help us. But they also go through waves of town meeting, updating the call of hearing room. You know, those are instances where they, you know, as it is, they help us a lot. Right. A lot of things. But that's a big project. I mean, it's a big transition.
Could you put together a list? I would be interested anyway. I imagine everybody else would. If you're being bogged down by things like this, that we could find another way, utilize better. What are the things that we can take off your plate so you can focus on the things that are most important to the planning board? So if you're spending 2 days on hand holding an applicant, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So if you can give us a list, maybe we can discuss it and work towards finding a better solution, because your time is, again, nothing against applicants or anything, but your time is better served somewhere else. You know,
Yeah, it
so,
could be more proactive.
right, so
Better
let's,
reactive. That's
if
the-
you could put together over the next month, maybe a list of things that you think, you know what I mean, we could delegate or whatever, but just,
You're already doing a lot. I can tell you, you're helping a lot. You as a group have been assisting a lot when you're drafting letters or doing bylaws and things like that. So that really helps.
but just think of things over the next month of, again, anything we can do, or we can find a way to make things easier for you, so
Yeah.
your focus can be on where it needs to be, I think makes
And you
sense.
can't
for-
always control the other departments to the level you want, but, you know, there's things like, you know, when there's 3 building permits open for one site. Right?
Yeah,
How, and that's what's confusing when a new building commissioner comes in and he doesn't know which one goes to what, and then why are there 3? Right? There's one building there, the addition would be, you know, that building should have been closed out or whatever. The addition is what the new building permit should be for. Unless they're doing interior work, then I would think you have a complete building permit for that project, the interior, the addition and the salt shed. One big building permit, but it's not, and then it gets confusing, and that happens quite a bit. So,
I mean, I'll be honest, I've never really given this much thought because Mimi was just so on top of everything that, you know what I mean? With the gap of Mimi leaving.
Obviously not.
No, Mimi, I think that
Occupancy permit.
you know what I mean? That the conversation started now, and I think, you know, again, it's things I hadn't thought about, or I wasn't maybe ignorant and just didn't ask the questions. You know, but again, we're losing.
yeah.
I don't know how we replace Mimi, but you know, we just need to try to find.
Forget I was ever.
Well, what's super helpful is that, you know, like Marty was focusing on lighting,
Yes.
Mimi on the landscaping and open space was getting, and Debbie has a lot of the warrant article
Yeah.
feedback and things like that, and Alan's just getting into like the rules and regs. That's helpful a lot. It's just that planning covers a lot of
Yeah.
different tentacles. It's not like 2 alleys and that's it. There's a whole bunch of them. And I think we'll just work through it as we go and come up with recommendations as you get more knowledge of what's really happening.
I just wanted to mention though, that last time and I offered to go through your notebook and sit down with you guys. Because I know you've been keeping records like crazy, right,
There's
for a
lots
lot of
notebooks.
years.
Yes.
And I think being a planning board member, people do come to us and say, what's with those lights?
Yeah.
How about that sign? Is that guy allowed to park that truck right in the entranceway with a big,
Yeah.
these different things? So we see these things, we go, wow, I don't really know if that's legal. You know, is it, are they out of compliance?
There was a complaint avenue through the building department with
Yeah.
a prior building commissioner. You'd go, if you had a complaint, you went in there, you entered it, and they had 10 days to respond.
Yeah.
I think when Kelly O'Brien was.
That's Mass General law.
Yeah, well, they were doing that. It was, you'd go in and put your complaint in there.
Yeah.
It's just, people have to use it.
But I think that we can, there's multiple layers in here.
Yeah.
You're right, because we're not the enforcement,
Right.
zoning enforcement officers, but we can work together at least to say, okay, yeah, I've got a couple in my head, as you know, I keep mentioning them because we're in this really hard position where we have to wait for proponents to come before us. And we know they're out of compliance right now, and some of them for decades, right? And so like low hanging fruit to me, let's put it on the grid and we'll, but Colleen, do you see yourself as being able to kind of help in this regard? Like, let's say if we go into Colleen's list, Karina's list, and she's got some properties that, okay, this is out of compliance. Is that something that you could work on?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
number one, but number two, I would start backwards. I would start with our most recent things.
Mhm.
Okay.
And go backwards
Oh,
so that we're more effective that way.
Yeah.
Start with the 20-year-old one and fight with them. You know what I mean?
20 years.
Yes, that'd be
I-
hard.
like in my mind, although it doesn't really help. Like a form letter.
Yeah, agree, like a template.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To the zoning enforcement officers, is that what you mean?
well, the initial step would be from like, from the planning department to the project.
Oh, yeah, actually, that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
Right, but we would do something like that.
Notice
and then-
you're out of compliance, zoning code.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we'd have something to give to building commissioner to say, okay, well, we contacted these guys, they didn't contact us back.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Can you
yeah.
please get involved in this?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to help with that part.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
Like them.
Can I?
Yeah.
I thought we were going on the line. That's why I was waiting.
Sorry,
No.
sorry.
Oh, I just jumped in, Ellen, I'm
I know.
sorry.
No, that's what we usually do.
Mr. Belliak.
So a
The
couple
new
things.
regime, which will come down.
One, to hear, I can't quote you, but to hear something like it, get your board in order or whatever you guys said. And then to read, we're committed to working collaboratively with you to find a solution that meets everyone's needs. There's a huge cognitive dissonance there. So to me, one of those things sounds like service. Two, if the building department is the enforcement authority, I don't think it's our responsibility to tell them where to go look. Maybe it'd be nice if we were to offer it, but I don't saying shall and making it a requirement on us, just, it seems incongruent with what they're doing.
Right.
Willing to partner, sure, that's great. I also wonder if, and maybe you're just using this as a for instance, but do we have to submit something on letterhead from planning board to Lumen? Like, could we simply write an email because that's part of public record? Would that suffice? That's far faster and easier.
Yeah, probably.
Well, that's what I've been doing. I do email. And what I have to do is now always copy the building.
Mhm.
When there's a complaint or something and I reach out to a proponent. If it's a more serious level, that's when I've been copying them.
Which is very detailed, she writes a book.
And I
She
do
spends all
write
that
it.
time and.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why I
you
was
can always
thinking
go back.
form letter.
Yeah.
And then
So
in
you
terms of
don't do
where to
it
start,
anew every time, yeah.
could we? Do we look through our meetings where we say the phrase in violation or not in compliance? We just did simply a search for that phrase for as far back, starting today, working backwards, not starting 20 years ago, working forwards. I would think that would be a good catch-all. Of course, we could review it and say, no, this one, we said that, talking about this, we didn't mean that. But by doing that search, we can then quickly say, no, and then everything else is yes. And then that would be a good start, I would think. And
I also have a box right behind my chair. It's the problem box. And they're all waiting to be addressed.
all right, you already have it. Okay.
It's just a matter of being able to turn around and have the time and say, okay, I'm gonna work on this one. There's little things like, like Long Cadillac owes me a final as-built of the plan from their modification. But I have to get on it.
So could we start with, like, what level? I appreciate you write the books. We have the detail for the file. Could we start with asking building department what level of detail they need? If we hear that, hey, Long Cadillac owes us a site plan, and then if they don't need the chapter and verse from which meeting that came from and all this and that, but they just know they need to go knock on someone's door, and if that suffices, and that saves you some time from having. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do require this level of detail. I'm not sure. This is new to me. But if we ask them and they say we only need this, and this, and everything else is ancillary, or everything else only if we ask for it, then that might shorten up the submission process.
Well, the zoning enforcement officer is defined in 48, so it's not that we have a choice.
And in our code.
And in the code, it's reinforced in the code.
Although the one thing that I do think he said that I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, is he said, you might think about putting a warrant article in or for a new bylaw that actually states that he has teeth. He can revoke an occupancy if people are out of compliance. So there was some language that we should think about that. He said there's no teeth in it. And so we've never had a compliance record where we charge people or revoke occupancy. So if there's something in the bylaw that actually gives him something to act on, he said, that would also, I would encourage you to think about that as a board if you want to do that. And I'm like, oh, I'm good at bylaws. I could probably think about that. And then it went outside my head until just this minute. So it's in my notebook. But I think that, to your point, is like, what information do they absolutely need? I think we have to actually convey the information to the developer first. Let them know they're out of compliance. Give them a time. If they don't respond, then we actually have something actionable. But
It's funny you mentioned that about the warrant article, because in Mass Planners Forum, just in the last 2 days, that was a big question.
Oh.
How are you enforcing this?
Oh, I asked that question.
So
Okay, so
you
you
did
did
it.
question.
Right, it's not that funny. You put the question.
So I was
But people were
perusing and I
responding.
said, did anybody respond to me? Because I saw
They
you put
did
that out
today.
there.
Not great answers.
Right, well, the Long Meadow one is interesting.
I have a friendly amendment to what you mentioned, Marnie, is that if we're gonna talk about an event, a warrant article, maybe it come from the building department and not from the planning board.
Would have to come from the
Yeah,
selectmen
it has to
on
come
behalf of
Perfect.
the building
Yeah.
department.
How about it just doesn't come from planning board?
Why don't we just
Because
invite,
the perception of us trying to say, hey, I just,
enforce rules.
it would look
Yeah.
much better coming not from planning board.
why don't we just invite the building department to come to a meeting?
That's fair.
Have a discussion,
Yeah.
and instead of somebody going to them and them coming
Yeah,
back, we just
Yeah,
put
I
it all
agree.
out there and just have a
right.
discussion.
Yep.
You
What
know,
we need
and
from
see
them,
where it
what
falls.
they need from.
Yeah, and
That's great.
let them know what we think as well.
I have a question because you guys are having this land use meetings now between conservation, zoning and planning. Is that something that is only for department members or could board members join? And what are you doing
It's
at
just
that?
department heads so that we're aware of.
Is
What
it
everybody else is doing.
It's specific on parcels. It's
It's-
not like larger items.
It's,
like-
current projects, if there's questions,
Okay.
ideas of like updating how we handle something, like, how we're putting stuff in OpenGov or, you know, just
Okay.
picking the brains and then.
I'm not involved in
specifics.
that part.
But it seems like that's a good forum.
Yeah.
To kind of bring some of these things up.
Well, I think Lisa's idea to have.
Yeah, we can come to a meeting and just have an
Freddie,
open
did you have a
discussion.
question or
First on
comment?
the
Yeah, I had a
agenda, so people, you know what I mean?
Yep.
People don't have to hang around and. Anyway,
So
Alan, did you have more?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Thanks, Ellen.
people call me.
What do they call you?
I left that wide open. People call me, they see something. I get calls. You won't, you know, I'm sure you do too, but I'm not on the planning board. I'm not on conservation, but like, you know, I was trying to tell people go here or there. And like one of the things here, like you're talking about 154 Turnpike, that's the Starbucks. Yeah, we knew when that happened. And I related it to a planning board member and was told that as they were cutting the trees down, that they couldn't do anything. That was the zoning code enforcement officer had to deal with that. And so it didn't land on your plate till they came with Chase.
No, it did land on our plate years ago.
Yeah, this is.
When they cut that, when they did the cut through.
The driveway.
But no, the cut through, after the cut through is when they did all the landscaping and the stone rocks and all the trees came down. That was after the cut through. They already had that agreement at the cut through that didn't get done, right?
Right.
But I'm just saying for citizens, you know, like where do they go? You know, it's not the planning board, so who you call? Well, sorry, but I just want to know who to tell them to contact, right? So, the other thing was like the lights on, so now these Girl Scouts are working on a light project and, you know, they're not going to go and be enforcers, but how do we have these lights that are so obviously out of compliance? I don't see how that's the planning board.
We just happen to notice these things though.
The zoning, I mean, the building commissioner still has a form on the website.
So people need to fill that out.
They do. That's what we were told, that there's a process to do that.
But I think it's a lighting issue too. If we come up with a form letter, if you will, like we talked about, and just be able to plug in what the issue is. I think that could be a first step as well, depending on what it is.
But Freddie raises a good point. It's like, how did like people who see something that's amiss, where do they go? And so I do think it's a bigger question, right? Because it's a site plan violation.
Yeah, but it's not, I wouldn't think going to you, how, I mean,
But we
some of
can't
these,
enforce it, but
and not
like,
only that, but
Right.
how many years ago was it? And what's the,
So maybe that's part of the conversation with the building department when they come in. You know, if you hear of something, let us know. Or, you know, have the conversation that if it's a site plan issue for compliance, then.
so
We
if you're
start with
driving
the
down the
letter.
street and you see a whole, property being redone without a new site plan. Is that you or is that the zoning code enforcement officer?
311 system.
So,
Building, they would have to
It's a
pull a
great
permit for
question.
anything. You know,
where am I pointing? You drive down in Route 85 and you see this whole building going, like everything being torn out. All the landscaping, everything, and then the lights come up brighter. Like who is that? Is that? It's not the site plan you offered, so if you're looking for 154 Main, Turnpike, there were a bunch of them that were redone. And another one, it seemed like they got some new light poles in. Huge amount of lighting. So who's that? I mean, I can't imagine you'd call the planning board. So it's the thing online.
Yep.
So we need to understand if that form online is actually used. Because for a while it was. But,
And also, do people want to
Put their name out there. It's easy to.
put their name and that's why they call me.
The snitch.
And I'm not.
I get those calls. We all get those calls.
The
Yeah,
whole
there
thing-
was initiative.
There was a click fix thing, which has worked in many other
That's it.
towns, and they
Yes.
couldn't seem to get it work here, but it was a way to put in things just like pothole here at blah, blah, blah.
You saying you can't give it to
Oh,
them?
And you didn't have to
they
give your
didn't
name, so
want-
it was
Margaret
just, there's
Landry
a
was-
problem.
Spearheading that with the select board. And I don't think it was favored.
It wasn't favored by DPW.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
because
all
of
the
potholes?
complaints aren't for DPW. That's the
Well, it
problem.
encompassed
Put a lot.
potholes.
Put a lot on
What?
them to get back
Potholes
to
are,
people.
yeah, potholes are.
Yeah,
Would
and
you
it
like
was
to know
gonna
when
be
they all are?
channeled to whoever.
Do we see that with building department, putting a lot on them to follow up, so now they're shifting it to someone else?
So the interest of like keeping it cordial and timely,
Yeah.
can we maybe table this and
Yeah.
say the next step
Agreed.
is? I'm gonna reach out to Katie on the policy, get an understanding, and then I think we just figure out if we put it on a discussion, maybe July or, something.
Yep.
And maybe, I'd sit down with you and maybe we look at the list that you have and then compare it with Karina without. Maybe just sneak in one day and look behind her chair, see
Yeah.
what's behind
Yeah,
there.
we have to come up with a way to track us, like,
Yeah, I think it's
not just a
tracker.
box, because
Right.
it's a hard, when you look at it, you're like, oh my goodness, that whole box, and you're like, I gotta do this by it first.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, here's a spreadsheet, and then Colleen could manage some of
exactly.
that, and
All right.
We can figure it out.
Continued discussion.
good thoughts, okay.
Next item on the agenda. Planners report.
Ah,
Almost there.
Okay, I have a couple things, not too bad. All right, so, under project updates, if you recall, 264 Cordoval Road was the auto repair place that had originally two, used car sales spaces. And it got permitted with minor site plan a couple of years ago. So the tenant there changed, and he's looking to find out what he can do for his car sales. New minor site plan, approval included a condition that said, unless you're in compliance with the minor site plan now that has been permitted and approved and exercised because they recorded the decision. We have to be in compliance before you can do any car sales. So he posed a question to me, did you say here? We want to sell a couple. Yeah, can you go back to the two, used car spaces, which in the zoning board special permit decision, town council had opined that in 1982, two spaces were what was valid. There had accidentally been one for 8 spaces, but that was incorrect.
Yep.
So at the time, they had 2 spaces. So I said, well, let me pose it to the planning board to ask them if you want me to reach out to town council on that question. Let me just see exactly what I said here. I said, I believe the 2024 minor site plan approval permit was exercised and the conditions of the minor site plan approval need to be met. As for regressing to the prior 82 ZBA decision relating to the 2 used cars allowed, I would need to follow up on that question with the planning board and possibly town council. So.
Yeah, because we have a new site plan.
Yeah, wouldn't it be
You
null
can't
and
use the
void?
old one.
Like you have a new thing that's been approved, right?
Yeah.
And reported?
But there were things like, that they haven't done yet, isn't,
It's the tenant versus the owner.
the property owner is supposed
Doesn't
to
matter.
put in a little water separator. With a
Yeah.
thing. They were supposed to fix the pavement that was failing. Yeah, they were supposed to close the Woodland roadside. They put planters there. There's trees required to be planted along Woodland Road, even what's on a type of issue. So there were a few things that had to be done, some light updates. They repaired the fence, little things like that, but there's a lot of things that haven't been done in timely fashion, so
Did they record the
they did,
site plan?
yeah,
So it's been exercised.
I believe, yeah, that's,
So that's the valid
the number
site
one.
plan.
That's the balance.
On the list,
Yeah.
We're waiting to go to town council.
okay. So I'll just say, no, you can't until you're in compliance with, and, what's. difficult in this situation is that, like Colleen said, the owner is putting on the tenant and the tenant is trying to run his business, but that's their problem.
Yeah.
So that I need to put a time frame according to the policy, say like, you're not in compliance, you're not gonna get this, and you need to come in compliance. And I should probably address it to the owner of the property, not the tenant.
Correct.
Even though they're making the tenant do the legwork on the lot. Okay, I got that. So I won't send it to town council. I'm gonna draft a letter or an email back saying you need to be in compliance. And please let me know how you're going to achieve that in XYZ time.
So can we use this as our first case? So maybe there's a form letter or make it easy. I know you take a lot of time and consideration, Karina, but you should track this letter. We're sending it to the proponent. No response, send it to the building commissioner, out of compliance site plan.
Yeah,
Because I know that it came in as a funny way, because it's coming in from somebody who's genuinely interested to improve his business.
he is, and he's very willing to try and
Right.
do things, but he
But we can't get
financially he
involved
can't,
in
right?
that.
We can't get into
It's the site
outside,
and
right.
the, opponent is out of compliance.
Yeah.
We maybe come up with kind of our own policy, what, 1 letter, 2 letters, and then send it over.
Well, I
to-
think it's supposed to be like two attempts.
Two attempts and send
Yeah,
it to the
and
building
then-
commissioner and say.
And then we're
Yeah.
not getting a response for that.
Yeah, where's the teeth of the building commissioner needs is a whole other thing, but at least we can show that, okay, we're your partner. This is what we can do, because we know about this.
Yeah. Well, what I see is after two two letters go out or 2 emails and they're not compliant, that's when I'm gonna forward it to the building commissioner.
And the letter's gonna say, you need to come for modification, or you need to come before the board.
You need
and
to
tell us
comply
what-
with your minor site plan.
With minor site. plan.
Yeah. Because he's got a certificate of occupancy.
I think we owe it to the residents. I mean, I don't know what it's like. We heard from so many residents in that
Oh,
area.
yeah, that was a very,
It's contentious.
yeah,
And
I
it
think
appears
that,
he's
yeah.
getting along very well with
because he's not
Yes.
selling any cars.
Yes. And there's like 2 cars in.
But he's not blocking the views. I mean, there's a lot of things. He's cleaned up the site a lot.
He's
Yeah,
careful of
yeah.
when.
He
deliveries
has done,
come. Yeah.
and he's very active, like on social media within the community as well. You see him post on the Southborough
Yeah.
page all the
Yeah,
time. and-
yeah.
Yeah,
But I think we simplify it to Deb's point, like, I wouldn't be a detail oriented, this is what you
No.
need to do, like. I think we just make it a really simple template, like there's you are out of compliance with your minor site plan, you are out of compliance with your major site plan.
Yep.
You have 30 days to contact, and I guess the question is, how do we take the burden off of us? And so who is it that they contact? Do you have like the availability of the conditions nearby? Like, is it
Yeah.
contact Colleen to follow up to say she can get you your conditions that you'll need to comply with and schedule for?
They have them, they're
Yeah.
on the open door portal.
I better
Right.
have my brain.
But I
Jeez,
always
get 'em.
send them to them anyway, so they have them. We've met with them several times, with several different buildings. Jean and I met with them and sat and went over, like, you need to do this and.
Like, we shouldn't have to do
I
that,
agree.
like
We should
that, your
definitely
job should not be doing
Get in
that.
compliance in
Yeah.
30 days you're out.
Yeah, he was
I
new,
agree.
he didn't, he wasn't aware of it, so I try to help them.
But I
So
mean,
you-
as
does it
a
make
proponent
sense?
needs to know they can get their conditions on the Worcester Registry.
Well, I mean, does it
That's
even
it.
make sense though if we're sending a letter, I mean, it takes 2 seconds to pull it, include the decision
Include the
with it and just
decision,
make
right.
it easy and
I
be done.
often do.
And you don't, but then you don't have to highlight, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
The onus is on them. You know, it's their responsibility to figure out why they're out. It's not your time to, hold their hand once again.
No, and people aren't intelligent.
Right.
They
Exactly.
know. They
Yeah.
know. They just don't get to the finish line.
And put it in the letter, look in the conditions.
Yes.
You know what I
do.
mean? Make that as part of the form letter. You're telling
Yeah, I'm
them
just
where
not
to
gonna
look.
tell
You
them
just,
I'm not gonna bullet all the conditions.
Right,
for
you're
them.
just
I'm
not
just
gonna
gonna
hold
say
it.
you're not in compliance.
Right, and you have 30 days to
And here's
reach
your-
out and schedule.
respond.
Because they know by
Totally
now.
agree.
If it's a
time
new
for
person,
planning
you know.
board discussion or
Totally
whatever.
agree.
Okay.
Submit your
No
submit
town
your
council.
modifications or your as-built or submit what you need to be in compliance or schedule to be on our planning board meeting within the next 30 days.
that's right.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 options that they have.
30 days.
And that we can do.
Planning
Yeah.
board meeting.
And then it
Perfect.
comes off of your plate and comes into the board.
Yeah.
Okay, That's a good one. Chris Leroy
This is
sent.
very exciting.
You- it's too good for you. You're working on it. I forwarded Chris Leroy's, made some progress on the tree
Saw that.
replanting program.
That's great.
Okay, so there's,
Very
That's
exciting.
too.
Step one.
yeah,
Yep, that's awesome. Good job, Chris, if you're listening.
can I get a copy of that? Oh, yeah, I'll forward to.
That was awesome.
Okay, the Mass Windsor House. I don't know if it's a 5386, where there's incorporating site plan review into chapter 48. I forward you that stuff for your information. Thank you. So, it's a little bit tough to read, but that's okay.
So maybe at another meeting, we can kind of I mean, maybe it's too premature because I think it's in the house right now.
Yeah,
It takes
does have-
27 years, doesn't it?
It may not pass, I
Yeah.
suppose, right? So I don't know, but maybe at some point we can revisit. it.
Yeah.
See what the
At
ramifications.
least you have it, just some
Yeah.
starting point here, and elections are tomorrow, and I think that's it. I think, we have minutes.
Minnie, can I make a suggestion before we adjourn? You don't have to do it right this minute, but
We have minutes. You want to make a suggestion now?
yes, can we go back to a discussion item for 1 minute?
Sure.
So under 4042 Central Street, I would suggest, I know you're leaving the board, and I would think it would be helpful if we send the last correspondence and the modification to town council, and also invite him to our meeting whenever that's on the agenda. Now, that may be on the agenda at the next meeting, I don't know, but I would rather him, again, maybe the board doesn't think it's a good idea, but I would rather just be proactive in lining that up if we can,
I support that.
you know, and just, again, he can review the letter, he can review the modifications and the things that, you know, were said and the reasons why. That's all.
Oh, send that whole thing that he sent today.
Yeah, to Jay and
I
We
had
sent
Serena forwarded because
You did, okay,
threatening
can
a
we-
lawsuit.
Yeah.
then my next suggestion would be whenever that's gonna be on the agenda, that we invite council to come to that meeting as well.
Okay.
That's all. Sorry.
Yep.
It just popped into my head.
Got it.
I make a motion to approve the,
Ron?
Executive session
yeah,
meeting minutes for Park Central.
yes, that will be. The executive session meeting minutes, Park Central for format and release 9/2/2016, 9/13/2016, 11/1/2016, 12/7/2016, 1/9/2017, 6/26/2017, 7/11/2017, 7/13/2017, and 9/25/2017.
I second.
For discussion, I have just one little thing on 9/25/17. Line 43, it says 40B, it should be 40A, those townhouses.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I know, Colleen, you pulled these all together,
They from a big book.
but I'm just saying,
Yes.
thank you for taking the time. I know how time consuming this was to do, so thank you for doing that. That's all.
Brought back memories.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not good ones.
I learned a lot.
I know, I was part of the not good ones, I'm there. So I appreciate the time and energy that it took to do it.
So I have a motion and a second as amended on line 43. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Doniak abstain.
Executive session, I make a motion to approve the minutes from executive session meeting minutes, the Ferris open meeting law complaint for format and release 11/4/2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Doniak abstain.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 11th, 2026, pre-ATM.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, abstain.
Doniak, yes.
I make a motion to approve the April 13th, 2026 minutes.
Wait, which one are you on?
April 13th, 2026.
Oh, okay. I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Oh, sorry, Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brush abstain.
Only I abstain also.
I didn't see the April 27th. Were they?
They're not there, no.
Okay,
So
perfect.
it's got me tripped up.
Okay. I'm just gonna read something and then I will close the meeting.
Perfect.
I would like to take a moment to recognize and celebrate someone whose dedication to the town of Southborough has quietly shaped our community for decades. This is a repeat of our town meeting, in case people didn't listen to it. Mimi Latrell's service to this town is both exceptional and enduring. Mimi first began her public service on the Open Space Committee, where she served for nearly 15 years with a deep respect for conservation, thoughtful stewardship, and the long view of land use. In 2016, she was elected to the planning board, and since then, she's continued to give generously of her time, her expertise, and her steady leadership. In recent years, she has served as the chair of the planning board, guiding its work with clarity, diligence, and integrity. Mimi commands a strong and nuanced understanding of Southborough's bylaws, but more importantly, she understands their purpose. She's consistently led with a commitment to balanced decision-making that protects public health, safeguards environmental resources, and ensures long-term compatibility between growth and community character. Her fingerprints are on some of the most important planning work our town has undertaken, including native plant adoption, meaningful contributions to the master plan, and countless hours spent reviewing proposals, listening to residents, and guiding complex discussions for thoughtful outcomes. What often goes unseen is the time, the late nights, the preparation, the quiet perseverance that comes with volunteer service done well. For 25 years, Mimi has shown up for Southborough, not for recognition, but because she believes deeply in this community and its future. Today, we recognize and celebrate that commitment. We thank Mimi Latrell for her decades of service and in particular, her leadership and dedication to the planning board. Please join me in giving a round of applause to thank Mimi for her extraordinary dedication to the town of Southborough.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you. I've learned so much from all of you, and your dedication and all your hard work has been greatly appreciated. And thank you to the residents of Southborough for awarding me this privilege of serving them. Happy trails. Thank you so much.
Doing great.
What are you doing
We'll
with your
miss you.
Mondays?
I know.
She's gonna be joining, she's gonna be watching our
Marty's
meetings.
gonna have to read that to me every Monday.
So I make a motion to adjourn our meeting. And thank you. Thank you, Mimi.
I have a motion and second. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Tell me, yes.
I'll sleep on TV.